Good evening and welcome back to WillBrattonWx. We got something really different and really unique coming. Probably the first time that I know of, at least, that this has really been done in this type of space. So what we've got is in the top right-hand corner of your screen, you're going to see a bunch of our meteorologists and storm chasers up there. And we're going to be walking you through everything that's going on, not just tonight. We're going to be covering a little bit of what's going on tonight, but mostly what we're going to be doing is a forecast discussion for the next 2 days, as we are expecting a more significant severe weather event coming, especially tomorrow and possibly into Tuesday as well, where we already have a 3 out of 5 enhanced risk for both of those days in place from the day 2 and day 3 outlooks. Of course, we're going to get updates on those around 1 a.m. this evening Central Time, so like 5.5 hours from now. So we're going to do our absolute best to put out a good comprehensive forecast discussion where all of our members can contribute in the chat. So if you are a member with us, definitely make sure that you're jumping into the chat to contribute and ask any questions, because we're going to be answering every single question that's dropped by any of our members in the chat tonight. Now, keep in mind that we're not going to be doing a detailed, comprehensive analysis of the current severe weather this evening. So if you need severe weather coverage for this evening, definitely make sure you go to your local National Weather Service office or your local broadcast media to make sure that you can get that coverage and stay safe this evening. There isn't a ton going on tonight, but there is a little bit of a wind and hail threat, especially in the northern plains and back into the Carolinas. So if you're in those regions and you need severe weather coverage, definitely make sure that you are checking that out for your local National Weather Service offices and your local broadcast media. But we're going to be going through everything tonight in detail. I'm super excited for this. It's something we kind of just had the idea and we were like, I think this is something that people would get a lot out of, is seeing the meteorology behind what's going on. And it's an opportunity for some people to learn who want to learn, but it's also a good opportunity for us to share with people what we're doing here, what goes on into our forecasts, and make sure that people know that the work that we're doing here is real scientific meteorological work. And we're not just regurgitating whatever some AI or just one single model tells us or something like that. We're doing the real analysis and the real meteorology behind everything to make sure that we can bring you good quality forecasts and good real-time analysis at all times to try and keep people as safe as possible and do our part to save lives in the best way that we can. So with us tonight, we've got a bunch of folks. I'm super excited about this. Obviously, I talk about like the team all the time on broadcast and in our forecast videos, and you guys have gotten to meet a lot of our storm chasers on air. But what you haven't gotten to meet are a lot of our meteorologists that help out behind the scenes too. And we have a couple of them with us tonight, one being Lorian Gray and another being Taylor Hunn. You can see them in the top right there. Also with us tonight, CJ Morgan. We've also got James Pettis, Alan Geiger, and Norman out here with us tonight in the chat. We are in the call, I should say. We also have Adrian with us and Timothy as well. And that's, sorry, I guess I skipped last names on the last 3 people. Norman Smith, Adrian Roncahan, and Timothy Kern. Said everyone's last names except theirs. And I see Chuka Soba has just joined us as a Sirius member. I really appreciate that. It does significantly support the work that we do. And it is also how you guys can get in the chat and ask questions and interact with us tonight for this forecast discussion. And the reason we do members only for tonight is to give our members a special experience and also to make sure that there's a limited number of chat messages so we can try to answer every single one. So if you would like to ask some questions tonight, definitely make sure to join us as a member. And then Braden has just gifted 5 more memberships as well. So Braden, you're the absolute GOAT. Really appreciate that. And so it looks like we just had 5 new members added in. It worked this time. We were having some issues with like the gifted members, like just not working, but everything seems to have worked. And I think I crossed all my T's and dotted all my I's. So we can jump right into things. I'm going to really quickly talk about what's going around the US right now. And then we're going to get into our full detailed discussion and analysis, which will take an hour to an hour and a half. Maybe we might be on here, just depending on how deep we go, how much agreement and disagreement we maybe have until we reach good conclusions. And then also how many questions you guys have for us. So right now I'm looking at the Dakotas, where in South Dakota, we've got a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings active. One's up here near Timber Lake and Trail City for a newer cell. This was a new warning that just got put in place a little bit ago for 60-mile-per-hour winds. There's also a storm in central southern South Dakota, not far from the town of Ideal, where CJ and I actually got a tornado just about 2 months ago while we were out there in South Dakota. Or not 2 months ago, like a month and a couple weeks ago. This is a stronger storm out here as well, tagged for 60-mile-per-hour winds. Nothing crazy is expected with a lot of these storms. And then out near Linton, North Dakota, we are looking at a storm that's interacting with some sort of a boundary out here. I didn't take a deep look into what exactly the setup here is. You can see a pretty clear boundary to the north, and then another one extending down here through Hazleton and then down towards Linton. That this cell has interacted with and fired off of. This one's posing the risk for some golf ball sized hail and those 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts as well. And it wouldn't blow my mind to see this one eventually reach golf ball sized hail. We've already had a handful of considerable severe thunderstorm warnings earlier this evening. Down in Arizona in Cochise County, we're looking at another severe thunderstorm warning for small hail and some gusty winds. 1-inch hail, 60-mile-per-hour winds on that one. And that's everything severe that we have going on right now in terms of severe storms. But we do have a lot of flash flooding going on, and we do have a flash flood emergency in place for Beaver County, Utah right now. So this is just east of the town of Beaver here and near Manderfield and Greenville as well. Those areas are also within a considerable flash flood warning. That's going to be Greenville, especially. And there's been observed like catastrophic flooding in this area. So that's why the National Weather Service has gone ahead and put that flash flood emergency in place. So all of our considerable and emergency flash flood warnings are within the state of Utah right now. You'll see in southern Utah near Big Water, another considerable flash flood warning. That one's for Washington and then Kane County for this other one over here near Central and Pine Valley. So that is pretty much everything going on around the nation right this second. I'm going to leave my radar open here in South Dakota so that we can jump back over here if anything happens that we need to update you guys on. But we're going to get into the fun stuff here, which is everybody in this call with me, all of our incredible meteorologists. Of course, there's a handful more that weren't able to make it tonight. We're planning on doing this type of thing more often if you guys like this type of content, and we will be able to provide a lot of this cool analysis. At least I think it's cool, and I think it really helps people be able to trust us, because when you're dealing with a digital person that you might not even know where they're from, like I talk about being from St. Louis a lot, and I have a St. Louis flag over my shoulder because I love St. Louis. But a lot of times with digital meteorology, you might not even know where the person is. You might not know enough about them, their credibility. So I think this is going to help, or the idea anyway is that this can help bridge that gap a little bit and help you guys see a little bit behind, peek behind the curtain of what's going on here in the work that we are doing to bring you guys good coverage. So without further ado, I'm just going to open it up to you guys in the call with, where do you guys want to start? Do we want to talk about the tropics? Do we want to talk about Tuesday and Wednesday? What do you guys want to start with? And all of you guys can unmute and talk at any point, by the way. Everyone should be able to hear you on stream.
I say we start with the Big Bertha brewing up down there in the Gulf.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably the glaring elephant in the room right now.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay, so where do you guys want to go with it? Do we want to take a look at some current satellite imagery? See if I can find some. I don't know if that might be.
Yeah, you probably want to bring up the IR since it's dark now.
Yeah.
Water vapor is also.
Yeah, or water vapor. But right now, man, we've got, this thing spinning up right there in the northeastern Gulf. Water temps off our coastline here, down here in coastal Florida, are juicy. I mean, you're talking 80s, 90s. So there's plenty of fuel out there. And I know, James, you've probably been watching this closer than I have even, believe it or not. But there's a lot of dry air entrained in this system right now.
Here's a look at that satellite imagery. This is going to roll through, about 20 minutes ago, I think it looks like, is where this GIF is stopping, or not even like 10 minutes ago.
Like
so
10 minutes ago.
Yeah, this has taken us through. Thankfully, the satellite's back up, back in working order. Obviously, it was down, I think, for a couple of days. So that was unfortunate, but in working order now. And you can see a lot of these cumulus towers firing off because things are not super, super well organized. You can see the very broad circulation turning here. Let me get my pen open so I can actually draw on the maps a little bit here. Where'd it go? There it is. Okay. We'll use magenta for the night. Yeah, we can see all sorts of these little cumulus bubbles firing off where things are not incredibly organized with this system, but a lot of recent model guidance has suggested that it is going to uptrend more. I think there are a lot of tropical storm warnings in place along the coast that you'll see at the bottom of your screen on this broadcast. over time here as
That's
it cycles through
correct.
all the warnings.
Yeah, that's correct there, Will. We've got tropical storm watches in effect for basically all of the Florida Panhandle from the Big Bend all the way over to the Pensacola area. So, I don't know that we're going to see tropical storm conditions on shore far, at least far inland. The
Yeah.
majority of that's going to be limited to the coast, but this thing has definitely uptrended. The Gulf's going to do what the Gulf's going to do. It's that time of year, but like I said, this thing's really starting to fight a lot of that dry air that's out there right now,
Yeah.
and a lot of that shear that it's been working against it there. But I mean, the Google DeepMind models have really been sniffing this out. The Euro AI, especially,
Yeah.
has been
It's been
sniffing this
sniffing it
out
out
for
for
better part
some
of a
time.
week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
was
so we
looking
knew
at
there
it.
was the potential that was out there. I know, James, you want to take that one because I mean, you know a little bit more about this stuff than I do. You're more the models guy.
Yeah, honestly, like the model environment leading up to this, I didn't have much faith in it, but over the
Neither did
past
I.
24 hours, models have sort of really ticked up on intensity and the overall trek. So we knew, like, obviously it was going to be a weaker system if it sort
Right.
of shifted east, went into the Florida Panhandle because it
Hmm.
wouldn't have enough time. But now
Right.
models are sort of honing in on sort of a westward solution towards Louisiana, maybe even Texas, which we're probably going to definitely end up with Tropical Storm Bertha here in the next 24 hours with this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
to
and
be
that's what.
honest, I think this is fighting the dry air better than I anticipated even. I think this is just
Oh,
defying
100%.
all the odds right now that I had in mind because I didn't think it was going to be much 24 hours ago. So, but here we
No,
are.
Yeah.
neither did I. I can tell you on the ground down here, it's definitely juicy. That atmosphere has been really saturated with tropical moisture. There was a couple of precip discussions up for the peninsula this morning and this afternoon, one for my area, another for the Gainesville area. Really, those PWAT values, man, they're up towards like 2 to 3 inches. I mean, you're talking rainfall rates that were ridiculous, like 3 inches, 4 inches an hour. And we've got those training bands setting up right along the coast during the day. Luckily, we didn't see the flooding, that the risk that was there. But I mean, you can definitely tell throughout the day as this thing's tried to get its act together. The wind's picking up. You've got that rolling clouds in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to watch this thing really come across the northern Gulf the next few days. One of the things that I've been paying attention to is that track, and uh, you know, James, you kind of really honed in on this. That it's going to make a difference how far away from the coastline this thing tracks as it goes west.
Right.
Some models are pushing it into southeastern Louisiana and kind of burying it into the swampland of Acadiana there, and others are taking it. You have some models that aren't even taking it on shore, that are bringing it literally
Yep.
just past the mouth of the Mississippi over into the Western Gulf, where conditions would be much more favorable for a rapid intensification as it goes up to the coastline there of Texas. But luckily, intensity forecasts, or unluckily, however you want to put it, aren't the best right now. Generally, it's not what we're great at, but something that you're seeing more and more of the models start to agree on.
Yeah, we've been talking about the AI Euro because it's done a
Yeah,
particularly good job for the last couple of tropical type scenarios that we've had, and
right.
it's got the current track. I mean, we can follow it when you can just look at your sea level pressure, your mean sea level pressure, and you can see exactly where it is at all times, of course, and it literally just clips like the edge of the mouth of the Mississippi, pretty much
Hmm.
out in southern Louisiana, and then it just moves off towards those western Gulf waters, which do seem more favorable. I'm interested in what the shear environment is going to look like there. In case maybe
Right.
there is a little too much shearing because it looks like it's actually not really forecasting currently that it's really going to deepen much that low, and
Right.
like things are going to intensify very much as it moves off towards eventually maybe towards like Houston or Corpus Christi. So I'm gonna pull up
Right.
that shear map now. I'm just gonna pull up bulk shear. Okay, I can do. I guess on. Okay, I forget what I'm limited to sometimes with different modeling.
You
Let me
can
just go
bring
to
up
the.
if you go to Trop Tidbits, they definitely have. That's probably going to be your best bet.
Why are we not? There we go. Okay. So out here, at least through like Monday at noon from the HRRR, it's not looking like a crazy amount of shearing in place really at all. So interesting. See what the refs has to say. It's, yeah, kind of about even the same, with a little bit, it's forecasting a little bit more shear as we roll through into like Tuesday morning, but that's back where, I mean, it's going to be mostly out of this area by this point.
Right.
Yeah, I can take a look at tropical tidbits. What do we want here? I think they'll just give me shear straight up on one of these. Well, I guess I need to switch the model. That might help. Will it? No, I don't think it's just going to give me straight up shear. That's fine.
That's really strange.
It's also, this is just a different visualization of the exact same model we were looking at a minute ago, by the way, on what we're going to be looking at with the system. You can see it deepening here in the Gulf, and then just clipping by Louisiana and then moving off eventually towards the Western Gulf, where it seems like that low downtrends a lot as it moves off into the Western Gulf, which, yeah, that's definitely interesting for me.
Definitely. I mean, the Western Gulf is usually a little bit cooler, but again, you're still talking well above that 80-degree mark. Yeah. I mean, it is the Gulf.
I think somewhere, I haven't used tropical tidbits in a couple of like
I know he has it there somewhere.
They've got sea surface temperatures somewhere on here. And I'm trying to remember where it is.
Let's see if I can find
analysis tools, I believe.
It's in the analysis tools. So. Surface analysis, maybe, or it's probably ocean analysis. Sea surface temperature.
Yeah.
It's juiced.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's that time of year. I can tell you like I said, the waters off our coast here are 31C, 31C, right off of my coastline here on the Gulf Coast of the peninsula. But you're still talking, even as you're approaching the coast of Texas, still 29, 28, 30C. So relatively cooler, but I mean, it's the Gulf. It's July. It's going to be warm.
It's warm. Yeah. I mean, yeah. This is a, wow. I didn't realize quite how warm it was, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah.
I've been focused a lot on the severe weather and less on the tropics, at least for the last week or so. I haven't really followed it super closely. That's especially why it's good to have other meteorologists that we can bring in, like Pettis and CJ, because the two of them are particularly good with tropical stuff, and we can bring them in. I was hoping we could get Mark in tonight, but Mark's out of town.
Right. I was about to say, I'm nowhere as good as he is. He's got the gut on that one. I just have to deal with them, so I kind of have to pay attention.
No, we love Mark. He's awesome. Obviously, CJ has worked with him for quite some time. I've only known him for a couple of months, but I absolutely love the guy. It's awesome storm chasing with him.
Brilliant. He's like the Twister, the Bill Paxton of Twister to hurricanes. The dude can just feel it out. It's nuts.
Yeah. We did get an upgrade, or we just had a new considerable severe thunderstorm warning put in for somewhere in Wyoming. I'm guessing it is maybe a wind one near Laramie, question mark. It hasn't pulled up for me on GR. Give me just a second, and I'll talk about it for a quick second here before we jump back into things. Where do you guys, while I wait for this warning polygon to pop up, where do you guys want to go next in terms of your tropical analysis? What maps you want to see? I know it's kind of odd. It's kind of interesting trying to like pull the maps that you guys want to see. You know, it's easier when you're just looking at what you want to see. Right, exactly.
Keeping you on your toes. I'll let James take it from there.
I always like visualizing the Google DeepMind ensembles. They have an amazing website Google's built.
Oh yeah, it's
really helpful for tropical analysis.
Yeah, this year they really took that and ran with it. I found myself using it a lot more than I used to.
Yeah. Can you link me on that, Pettis?
Yes, sir.
And then I'm going to talk really quickly because we do have this considerable severe thunderstorm warning here for 70-mile-per-hour winds. And I don't think this was Okay, it wasn't observed. Okay. What did I miss in this message? Observational site 8 miles southwest of Spotter Horse recorded wind gusts of 67 miles per hour. So up to 70 mile per hour winds with this guy. And these are some elevated storms, or at least somewhat elevated storms here. It's in a radar hole. Let's see if the Billings radar will look a little better. Yeah, I mean, there's not really a good picture we can get on these out here, but obviously, being limited to looking at 18,000 feet or higher, with our lowest tilt angle from all of our radar units being in this radar hole is a little unfortunate. But we do have measured wind data coming back from a station there, reporting those 67 mile per hour wind gusts. So if you're out here in Campbell County, Wyoming, definitely make sure that you are prepared for some up to 70 mile per hour wind gusts with these storms out here. And again, these are through Spotted Horse right now. It's not like a good color for this. Spotted Horse right now, headed towards areas like Weston and Rocky Point, maybe even towards Ashoto later, or Gillette. So if you're out there in northeastern Wyoming, definitely make sure you're paying close attention to that one. Let me go ahead and, nope, let me not open Spotify. Let me grab this link that you
I
sent
also
me.
put a few of my plots I compiled as
Perfect.
well.
Okay. Whoops. Here we go. Okay. So here is, oh yeah, that's a cool visualization actually of all the different members there. So we have basically, we're looking at the Google DeepMind here. This is cool. I haven't really played with this much at all, to be honest. I've only seen this page a handful of times, or I've only been on this page a handful of times. But you can see the average expected track associated with all the different members, which is actually holding basically identical to the AI Euro. And the AI Euro has been pretty accurate so far this tropical season anyway. So yeah, definitely really interesting stuff here. What are you seeing on it, Pettis?
One thing I'm noting with these members is the further south members are the strongest. Some of them, 14% of the 1,000 member ensembles actually reach hurricane strength, but most of all of them still at tropical storm strength. I personally would be very surprised if we got a hurricane out of this, just because the overall environment battling shear, maybe some dry air, but I definitely think models are honing in on a track here where we're probably going to get a landfalling storm in Louisiana, maybe regenerating back into Texas. I think that's the best idea we have now. Maybe it skirts off the coast and just into Texas, but right now, the areas mostly under the gun with this are definitely Louisiana and parts of the Texas coast right now. It's where we have the highest confidence, the storm tracking.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I will say I feel like not perhaps quite as confident in like Corpus Christi, for example, being right along the track. I feel like it makes a little more sense for it to veer a little bit for just a little bit further north of Corpus Christi for the center of that low. Obviously widely to be determined on that. I don't actually even think what I just drew was visible on the broadcast, by the way. I was thinking something a little bit more along like these lines here, kind of between Houston and Corpus Christi. From at least what I was looking at a few days ago when I was looking at the forecast shear environment, although that is an outdated forecast from me there because, of course, the information I was looking at was from a few days ago. Felt like those winds were going to guide it if it made it out that direction.
I definitely think it's going to stay closer to the coast. Generally speaking, during its trek to the west, and I think it's going to bring it in definitely north. I think the most likely, opportunity there is going to be anywhere from Sabine Pass down to about Corpus, and that might even be, like you said, too far south. Matagorda Bay doesn't seem to be out of the realm of possibility. Neither does Galveston Bay and Houston proper. But I mean, we're not talking. I concur with James there. I think it's very unlikely we see a hurricane out of this. Just given the overall background environment. But rain is an impact, and it's very overlooked, especially in this part of the country, where we've had a history of really devastating rainfall from tropical storms. Now, I don't think it's going to be that crazy, but Unfortunately, it's also going to bring more unneeded moisture inland to parts of the hill country that definitely doesn't need it.
Yeah, you think about what's happening already in, southwestern Texas right now. It's devastating, and it's horrible to see. And even out in
Right.
Utah right now, we have
Yep.
three considerable flash flood warnings and one emergency.
Mhm.
So flooding is just one of those weather phenomena that's like often, unfortunately, overlooked. It's not
Oh,
like the
yeah.
flashy severe weather.
Mhm.
People are like, it's just water, right? But it's not. I
Yep.
mean, water is one of the most powerful things known to man. It can be, and it can, and it has been deadly. There have unfortunately been lives lost in the last week or so with flash flooding, so it's really important, even if we don't get hurricane force winds or anything like that, that people are paying really close attention to the flooding risk. Okay, so Pettis did have a couple of his own plots as well. So this one, or actually, Pettis, why don't you just walk right through them for us? This is your stuff. This is your work.
Yeah, that right there is a DeepMind 1000 member ensemble, and the fact that we're able to have that sort of modeling from Google, like 1,000 members, like that's out of this world. So DeepMind's changing the game when it comes to tropical forecasting. But overall, as you can see on the plot, the most confidence we have right now, according to 1,000 members, is us having some sort of direct landfall impact around the NOLA region, which New Orleans, gonna clarify that. But if you look down there, I mean, it's pretty much certain we're gonna see a tropical storm out of this. But if you go over to that other map I put,
Yeah,
you can see sort of a visualization on strength, and those green lines, most of them are tropical storms. But as you can see, there's a few outliers there that sort of veer south, and you get into those orange and red colors. That's hurricane strength. And
yeah,
I think overall intensity is going to depend on how much time we have over water with this. It's just a really tricky forecast overall, but again, greatest confidence is impact in Louisiana, perhaps Texas. But as CJ mentioned, rainfall is going to be a really big story with this. There's already, I believe, a slight risk of excessive rainfall by the WPC on day 5, it's not typical for that to happen. But yeah, flooding, I think after we're all said and done, is going to be the main story with this, no matter where this tracks.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, I guess if there is there anything else you guys want to look at tropical wise before we move on, and then if not, I got one more question before we move from it also.
I
Can
don't
we
think so.
look at like modeled rainfall rates
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
or rain
What do
accumulation?
you want to
Because I
use?
feel like I have no clue.
You're going to need something long range. I'd look
Yeah.
at the GFS and the Euro there, but the GFS, it just takes it completely in the wrong place. So I'd use the Euro.
Yeah,
Or
It
Euro
doesn't
AI.
say-
yeah, I'm using the Euro AI. I'm just gonna go total QPF for the entire forecast period, and as we roll through, this is what it's got. And this is getting
I mean,
far
you can
out. This is
see-
getting far out. I'm
you
not
can
going to go any
see
further than this, but something like
The rain nuke in the Gulf there,
Yeah.
Right.
that's a good signal on how much available moisture there's going to be with that storm.
Yeah.
So you could
Absolutely.
definitely get double-digit rainfall totals inland if this
Yes.
were to track further north in Louisiana. Like, that's not out of the question. That's why I think flooding
Yeah, no, it's not.
is
I will
going to
say,
be a very
a
big
couple
issue.
weeks ago, like we just got Tropical Storm Arthur in Louisiana, and I
Mhm.
was down there when it happened, and I live in almost the exact bullseye where about 12 to 15 inches of rain fell,
Yeah.
and I could not get off of my street for about 2 days
Yeah.
because of how much flooding there was just from 12 to
How
15
it was
inches.
here during Ian. We live about 6 miles from where the bullseye from Ian was the 26 inches or whatever. And yeah, we got about 22 inches of rain out of that. These slow moving tropical systems, they just do nothing but dump. Because you remember, you have all that moisture that it's carrying. It's not just going to evaporate, it's not going to go anywhere. It's not just going to dissipate. all
Right.
that moisture is going to go with it, and that's going to be carried inland. And once you get into areas of northern Mexico, that's more mountainous terrain out there, even out towards, like San Antonio. And again, this is showing that southern track more towards Corpus,
Yeah.
where if you bump that north,
I
I
was
very much
just
so
about to go
concur
through
with
that.
James. Yeah, I mean, you could bring some of these accumulations, and you could probably use the the inspector, yeah, and really get an idea. I mean,
I
look at
was-
that. That's 10 and a
Dude,
half inches
we're
of
on the
rain out there.
same wavelength right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, 10 and a half inches of rain in parts of southeast Louisiana. That's going
Upwards
to
of
be
11.
devastating.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. And again, we're so much is dependent, and I completely agree with all the analysis here that we're looking at more of a flooding risk associated with this than anything else. But there's no denying, if this track doesn't hold true and we get things a little further north, the outer bands, because you got to keep in mind when you're dealing with tropical systems that they're not, the size of a supercell, obviously. They're enormous, so it doesn't, wherever the center is might be, something like over here, where that's the center of your low, right? You're getting these bands of precipitation that can at times be absolutely enormous. I mean, we're seeing it right now when it's not as organized right now, near Florida. I mean, like literally, so like this entire area is getting precipitation at different times within this white circle right now, because and things are a little bit disorganized at the moment, but it's going to
Right.
get
No, it's
more
true.
organized as it moves forward in time here. And areas like Houston and New Orleans, I mean, the same types of areas that deal with this type of phenomenon every, so often, every handful of years, or sometimes even multiple times, in like a 5-year span. These areas are likely to get it again with this storm. If anything ticks even just a little bit further north, because I mean, you're literally playing with fire in this situation.
One more thing, Will, that I'm curious about. My graduate school brain is ticking. I'm
Yeah.
wondering if we will get another situation tornado-wise with this in Louisiana like we did with Arthur. So with Tropical Storm Arthur, we had, I want to say about, I think it was like 14 tornadoes
hmm
total from Arthur just in southeast Louisiana. I'm wondering if the orientation of the track will, like, if we'll see an increase or a decrease in the tornadoes.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I imagine if it follows this track about somewhere in this ballpark, at first, that tornado risk, I feel like is going to end up near like the Florida Panhandle. A lot of times it's that northeastern quadrant, with these tropical systems where you see that highest tornado risk. And as I think, especially when it moves just to the west, or the southwest, I guess, of New Orleans, essentially, that is when we might see a much higher tornado risk begin to develop, over areas like New Orleans, as a little bit more shear might get introduced into the environment as well. So the tropical system itself might not be quite as strong, but you will have more of an onshore tornado threat, especially with all that surface friction going on out there when you get over land, and a little bit more shear being introduced into the environment as well. So that is a very, very good point that you've made.
Water
there.
spout spam.
Water
I
spout
was about to
spam.
say water spouts. We're probably going to see water spouts, maybe even making their way onto land for almost the entirety of the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, this is kind of the region I feel like is the most likely for that, and exactly like
Yeah,
you
I
just
agree
said,
there.
basically the entire Gulf coast. Yeah, so
Right.
yeah,
And another thing to be watching out for is that dry air entrainment, because inherent in hurricanes are 3 out of the 4 big ingredients for tornadoes, right? You got
mhm.
you got rotation, you have the moisture, you have all of that, but the one thing you usually are missing is the instability because of the central dense overcast. But in this case, if you get that dry air entrainment, you can actually get, some breaks in these moats where the sun's able to peek through. That happened here with Milton. And we saw what happened with that. You had literally wedges on the ground in the Everglades. So, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. And I think Ivan was another prolific tornado producer. Although, I don't know, I might be like the only one here that was like old enough to remember Ivan.
Yep. Can't say I was around back then.
Oof. Oh,
Pettis is a youngin. To be fair, pretty much
Yep.
all of us are. All
I
mostly.
think I'm the only millennial here.
Wear it proud. Wear it proud, CJ. Wait, Alan, are you a millennial? Do you fall in millennial category?
What? I'm 32 as of July 6th, so
Yeah, you're
no.
one
Yeah,
of
that
us.
makes. I think that makes you a millennial, right?
I would
Yeah.
think that makes you a millennial.
Yeah.
I'm the last of the millennials. I was
There you
born
go.
in 96, so
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
But yeah, so I think that's something to keep out for. Just, kind of tying this into our severe weather that we're going to be looking at. Something definitely to keep an eye on as this thing tracks across the Gulf Coast.
Yeah. And this is a fantastic segue for going into the tornado threat that is going to be developing across the United States really over the next 2 days, and especially back into hang on, I'm trying to pull some maps together, but especially as we roll into back towards the Midwest. Apologies. Back towards the Midwest for tomorrow evening, and then towards the Ohio Valley a little bit more as we roll into Tuesday. I'm going to pull up my website here and show what these outlooks are currently looking like from the Storm Prediction Center. And then we're going to go through our entire analysis and see how much we align or don't align with what the Storm Prediction Center currently has. So this is the day 2 outlook where we've got this categorical 3 out of 5 enhanced risk in place, all the way from close to Des Moines back through Green Bay and up into the UP of Michigan. It's got a larger slight risk around it with a even larger marginal risk around that. What you'll notice down here is that we have over 50 million people within some sort of risk zones at the moment. Now, part of that is driven by the marginal in the Carolinas. That's going to drive that number up a little bit. You'll see Charlotte, Raleigh, and Greensboro, North Carolina, as 3 of the larger population centers within a marginal risk. So that's going to drive that number up a little bit naturally, but still a lot of folks within a severe weather risk, and specifically just within our slight and enhanced risk, which is also where we have our tornado risk in place. Those regions are looking at almost 50 million as well. We can take a look at the tornado map and see we've got, what does it have here? Outlined for the 5% and 2%, it's looking at close to 20 million. So we also have that SIG-1 risk that is in place. That's going to be including areas kind of like Madison or just outside of Madison, Wisconsin, to the west of Green Bay as well. A pretty large hatched region here. And we'll talk about in just a little bit whether we expect that region to expand and whether or not we increase confidence. Or we have increased confidence in a potential for a larger 5% risk or even a 10% risk being introduced for tomorrow as well. The wind risk is, of course, going to be the big deal in general, where we have that 30% risk for wind, which is entirely within a SIG-1 as well. And then we have our hail risk in place. I don't think hail is going to be the most significant factor, but because we have a discrete supercell storm mode, and as far as I am trying to recall from what I looked at on Friday evening, is that I think the mid-level lapse rates were forecast to be decently steep enough where we definitely could see some hail. But I don't know yet. We're about to look into that and do all our analysis for that. So we'll find out, see if we agree with that. And then finally, our day 3 categorical outlook is going to include an enhanced risk as well, where we are looking back towards the Ohio Valley and into Western Pennsylvania, out towards your hometown, CJ, of Pittsburgh, and where Norman is at as well. Well, not where he's at, but where he's from, as Norman is currently on the road, headed towards like the Iowa area for tomorrow's severe weather setup. Of course, he'll be out there chasing tomorrow. Mikey, I see you're in the call now. Are you planning on chasing? I think you said you were planning to chase tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I'm chasing tomorrow.
Awesome. Yeah, so Mikey will be out there as well. And when we start getting into the severe weather side of things and this tornado risk, I definitely want to hear from you guys as well. Walk me through your thought process as chasers once we get into this analysis, and let me know, in your opinion, because everybody decides on their target cities in different ways, right? So I want to hear what you guys are thinking. Like, where are you guys planning to target? What type of area do you want to set up? How do you want to chase it? Do you want to start south and try and go north to the first supercell and follow it back to the southeast, or how do you want to do it? Walk me through your whole thought process. I think a lot of folks would love to hear about it. And for the probabilistic outlook, we do have a 45% risk for severe weather on the day 3 outlook, which is something you don't see all the time. I think the tornado risk for Tuesday is a little bit less certain, and it is further out, so that's naturally going to make a little bit of sense. But definitely a slight less certainty in the tornado threat for Tuesday. Definitely looking at a pretty significant wind threat, though. And so yeah, we're gonna just jump right into things here. Where do you guys want to start? You guys want to go top down pretty much? We go take a look at our upper level flow, and then we can work our way down from there. Is that cool with everybody?
Yeah, I say start 500 millibars.
So what?
Yeah, that's good.
500
Okay.
millibar winds.
Okay, yeah. We'll take a look at the 500. Just a second. What I'm using right now, by the way, is the 23Z HER. We'll use this for tomorrow's severe weather. And then when we get to looking at Tuesdays, we can hopefully by then the 0Z will be done rendering out, and we can use that. Obviously, we can look at any other models as well.
OOZ is actually on frame 17, so just as far out as 23Z if you want to use the latest guidance.
I've got it through 15. We can use it though. It'll take us through. It takes us plenty far. So I forgot what time it is tonight. That's plenty good. Okay, man. It is 8:15 this evening. All right. So looking at our 500 millibar flow, what we're going to notice is that actually, no, it's not going to take us plenty far. I just completely lied. This is only going to take us through 10 a.m. Monday. I thought that said 10 p.m. Okay, that's fine. Womp womp.
Yeah, the best run I think right now would be 18Z.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to use 18Z, huh? That's annoying. But the 0Z will be done not terribly long from now. Okay, so as we roll forward towards Monday, we're going to see a lot of 500 millibar flow starting to pick up. And this is by 11 p.m. So this is now the end of the forecast period, what I just cycled through here. And we can go back a little bit further. But what we're watching here is those 500 millibar winds are going to be increasing during our severe weather event. So this is kind of in the middle of things around 6 p.m. here. And what you're going to notice is that especially kind of near the quad state type region of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Iowa, we're going to have enhanced 500 millibar flow, which is, of course, indicative of rising motion and divergence. I'm actually just going to go ahead and zoom in this map. It's probably a little difficult to see on stream here. That should help us out a little bit. Okay. That should help us out a little bit here. And I have heard a lot of rumblings. Of course, I didn't look at anything yesterday because I was out of town, but I heard a lot of rumblings from people talking about yesterday, leaning towards this region, especially here in northeastern Iowa. Have you guys heard a lot about that? What have you guys heard? Or what have you guys been looking at?
What I've seen this morning, it seems like, well, it's kind of a little bit, not say all over the place, but the HER's a little bit further east with the surface trough. That's where the storms are trying to form off of, ahead of the cold front.
Yep.
The storm net, I'm pretty sure, has it in southwest Wisconsin, which is kind of where I think it's probably going to set up personally. I know the NAM 3 kilometer kind of has come over a widespread area of convective initiation, more so north central Iowa all the way to southeastern Wisconsin, with more isolated supercells. I mean, who knows? But I think this event could be a little bit more widespread, like what the NAM 3 kilometer has.
Yeah.
Solely because I honestly don't trust the HER with anything, especially this time of year. Permitting. And it's just, it has a couple other issues along with it, but I kind of like that more so. I guess being a little bit more picky, I definitely like the southwest Wisconsin, northeast Iowa play more so than anything. I'd say it's probably the best shot, I think, as of right now.
All right. Well, that's very nice. I appreciate that from you, Norman. We're going to continue. I want to take just a quick look at part of the reason that we have such a good synoptic setup is because we have this jet streak that is going to be in place here. You're going to see a very, very strong jet streak at 200 millibars here. Looking at winds, like, what am I seeing? Like 130 knots, I think, if my eyes are not failing me correctly, 135 maybe in some areas. So very, very, very strong winds here. in our upper level flow at 200 millibars. So the right, if you divide your jet streak up into your quadrants, of course, the right entrance region and I'm trying to change the, oh, of course I can't change the color in there because I need to do it in there. Rising motion in the front exit, or the front entrance, the right entrance, my goodness, and the left exit regions are commonly associated with rising motion. The right exit region, however, and Taylor and I were just talking about this, and I sent her some of those. Taylor, I'm curious if you had a chance to read through any of those.
No, not yet.
Okay, that's fair
Is
enough.
this about the where sometimes the like the mesoscale features can overcome the rising motion there?
Correct. Yeah, what we've seen is that in these areas, man, I just keep forgetting to change the color on the right thing. In the right exit region, a lot of the time with these jet streaks, it seems like certain mesoscale environments, and in general, if you have really good synoptic features as well, they're able to overcome that stereotypical subsidence associated with the right exit region of your jet streak. So a lot of the more robust severe weather days have happened near the right exit region because some of that subsidence helps aid in a more discrete storm mode. So because we are co-located with that right exit region, I'm definitely a little bit bullish. Like as we go through each parameter, I like to go through and be like, is this parameter, am I bullish or bearish for each one essentially, or neutral, and then add it all up at the end and then decide, what do I think overall is going to happen. Looking at my 200 millibar flow though, I'm definitely a little bit bullish because I think we'll have a little bit of aid in staying discrete, and some of the surface features and other mesoscale features we're going to talk about as well will aid in that discrete storm mode as well. Does anyone have anything they want to go through at the jet streak level here?
It's not at the jet streak, but the moisture gradient tomorrow, especially looking at theta E, is pretty nuts. It's just a classic summertime sort of profile there.
Yep. And you can see like literally the outline essentially of our enhanced risk is literally just co-located with where we have these really, really, really high moisture content values that are sitting right ahead of our forcing mechanism, which is that cold front that's going to be blowing. I guess I shouldn't use red to draw an arrow for a cold front. That's really just brilliant from me there. Well, I guess blue's not going to show up. Doing this in real time is so difficult sometimes. We're going to have a cold front coming through, just sweeping through this area. You can see it. You can see where we have that steep gradient of your greens to blues. Behind that cold front, of course, going to be a little bit drier air. You're going to have pressure rises in those areas. Plenty of moisture, and it's corn sweat season. So it makes sense, of course, out in Iowa. We are looking at a ton of extra moisture, which you wouldn't always see in this region of the country in the summer, you might think. Obviously, it happens every summer with corn sweat, but in terms of the general synoptic patterns in the atmosphere, you won't see this much moisture at the surface without that corn.
And what's the term for that, Will?
Corn sweat?
Yeah, it's evapotranspiration.
Yeah, correct. Evapotranspiration, of course. Sorry, I was like, what are you looking for? Yes, we are dealing with evapotranspiration. Essentially, what happens is all of that corn. Oh, what did we just get? We just got an upgrade in North Dakota to a considerable severe thunderstorm warning. I'll take a quick look at that. That's going to be for Kidder County here. So in the Steele area, I'm going to assume they upgraded this to golf ball sized hail. So this is just south of Dawson, Tappan, and Steele in North Dakota here for Kidder County. So if you're in that area, definitely make sure you're on the lookout for some golf ball sized hail. I'm going to take a quick peek at the hail core here with it. And it's not a super nice looking updraft. It's not incredibly well sheared, but it is good enough. So definitely one to pay attention to. And let's take a look at what it's tagged for. It's tagged for up to 2-inch hail. So up to 2-inch hail near Steele, Dawson, and Tappan, west of Streeter, west of Gackle, Medina, and Cleveland out here in North Dakota. And this isn't terribly far to the east of Bismarck. As a little bit of a reference point, there's Bismarck. So if you're in that area, definitely make sure you're on the lookout for that 2-inch hail. All right, let me go back to where we were. Okay. All right, let's take a look at what our daytime cloud cover is going to look like. Because one of the possible fail modes for tomorrow is going to be with the morning convection. And I guess really quick, I can just show the SimRef to kind of show what I'm talking about. As we roll through Monday morning, we're going to have some residual thunderstorms in the area. You're going to see all sorts of thunderstorms. This is 10 a.m. on Monday, so tomorrow, like 12 hours from now or 13 hours from now. And then those are going to eventually clear up with some more early afternoon storms before things really start to fire off. And of course, like Pettis said, the HRRR is currently all over the place right now. You can see it's almost got things forecast dry in the middle of our target region right now. And that is okay. There's going to be a lot of disagreement amongst models when dealing with corn sweat because it's quote unquote anomalous, even though it's not really anomalous. But yeah. So when I take a look at our cloud cover, at least what the HRRR is forecasting anyway, as we roll through the early morning hours here on Monday, this is by 11 a.m. You're going to notice a lot of clouds. There's not really a ton of time where we're looking at like a lower quantity of clouds and just a less dense cloud blanket. So we're definitely going to have some struggle in generating your cape, getting that instability going. A lot of that radiation being deflected or reflected, I should say, back into the atmosphere by the clouds. Of course, clouds have a high albedo and therefore will reflect a lot of sunlight essentially. So it stops us from getting more heating at the surface, which is what we need to develop our instability and develop our cape. So as this is at 2 p.m. and this is really the hour, at least as forecast by the 18Z HRRR specifically. But this is really the best hour that we have in terms of a break in our clouds. And of course, peak heating is between 4 and 6 p.m. usually. So not the most ideal situation in the world, but also keep in mind that the HRRR is kind of all over the place with this setup. This is by 6 p.m. Around initiation. It's really not even forecasting that much. It's very, very messy, and it just has a lot of stuff clustering up into central Wisconsin. But so that's definitely going to be a concern because it's an easy fail mode for this situation for tomorrow, where we could easily see something similar to what we saw in Maine, for example, where we had something anomalous that was going on out there in New England, which was, in that example, it was the smoke from the wildfire, and that limited our daytime heating. We didn't get that diurnal heat. We didn't get enough instability to break the cap, and we also had a stronger cap. So we just didn't really get many storms to take advantage of what was a very favorable environment out there in New England. So that's a definite possibility of a fail mode for tomorrow as well. Not for the same reasons, though. Obviously, not for the wildfire smoke, essentially. And we can take a look at the vertically integrated smoke to hammer that point home as well. There is still a little bit of residual smoke in to Wisconsin here, but you're going to see that smoke's really going to be coming in behind the cold front. That's pretty much where our cold front is going to be with this setup. So we're not really looking at much of a smoke impact on tomorrow's severe weather. Now, it could potentially play a role for Tuesday. That's a little to be determined a little further out, though. What do you guys want to hit next?
Can we look at surface winds real quick, Will?
Mm-hmm. You want 10 meter or 2 meter?
Let's go 10 meter.
Yep. So this is rolling through the AM hours on Monday. And it looks like our surface winds are not looking incredibly backed. So this is by 7 p.m. here. And you're going to notice a lot of these surface winds coming out of the southwest. So that's going to be a little bit of a limiting factor. However, I will say the orientation of our cold front is almost slightly redeeming back into our target area we discussed earlier near northeastern Iowa and southwestern Wisconsin because of the orientation of that cold front, where you're going to see as we go back towards Wisconsin, that cold front starts to become a little bit more meridional oriented and essentially so north to south oriented. And so those surface winds are going to be much more parallel to that forcing mechanism. But in areas like southwestern Wisconsin and northeastern Iowa, it's not quite as parallel to that forcing mechanism. We can take a look at our bulk shear vectors as well to hammer that point home. Give me a moment to find that. Here's your bulk shear, your 0 to 6 kilometer shear And then the shaded areas are going to be how much shear you have, and then the direction of that shear vector. This is, let's see, I'll take us to 7 p.m. on Monday again. So the same point. So your storms are going to be moving roughly towards the southeast in that region. As your 0 to 6 kilometer bulk shear vector is usually a pretty solid indicator of what your storm motion is going to look like in most scenarios. I think this is not going to be an exception to that. Although we have seen a couple of weird exceptions to that already in 2026, where we've had storms going in very odd directions, at least from my expectation and model guidance expectations. So those are going to be, so that's something to watch, at least if we get something like that. But those surface winds coming out of the southwest, right? And the storms moving towards the southeast, those are not too like difficult to establish inflow, essentially, is what I'm trying to say here. So you imagine your thunderstorm in this environment that might be rotating. What's a good color to use? Like maybe a yellow. They're going to be rotating counterclockwise, of course. So something like this, and they need that inflow to be able to come in cleanly and get going into your updraft. And we'll take a look at our helicity and everything and some soundings too. Doing some soundings on here is going to be fun with everybody. Soundings and photographs. But yeah, the surface winds are not like completely going to destroy like the risk for tomorrow by any stretch. But it's not perfectly ideal. If you wanted a tornado outbreak, obviously we never want a tornado outbreak. In the event that you did want a tornado outbreak, if you were a bad person, what you would want is those surface winds to be backed a little bit more, coming a little bit more out of the southeast.
We only want to see them in the open plains.
Correct. Yeah, we want to see them because we love Mother Nature, but we don't want to see them hit anything. If they're going to happen, we want them to happen in the middle of absolutely nowhere. But except ideally in the middle of nowhere, but near some cell tower so that we can see it. But yeah.
I think something very useful we can do here is like, what website are you on?
I'm just looking at Weatherfront right now.
Okay, I was going to see if there was a way, if there was like a compare models option where you can kind of flip through, say, for example, the different surface pressures.
There is, yes. So we can.
So you can kind of see the comparison.
Yeah, let's take a look at our 10-meter winds here to see what different models are looking at and forecasting for this. We're just going to keep looking at 7 p.m. on Monday here. So this is the HER. This is going to be the refs. So the refs and the HER are in pretty good alignment with what our surface winds are going to be looking like. The refs V2 is actually favoring a slightly more backed environment at the surface by maybe 5 to 10 degrees. Let's see. I'm going to see if I can find one that's anomalously a little bit more backed. Possibly the NAM. Let's
Classic.
See. The NAM is actually doing what it does. The NAM is the doomsday model, is what I call it. And you can see those winds are definitely a little bit more backed. So that's kind of the direction they're coming in on the NAM. And if you guys remember, the HER and the refs were both looking a little bit more like this. So maybe by about 10 degrees there as well. Just a little bit more backed. And so if that environment is realized, then we could definitely see a slight increase in our risks of severe weather. I'm just going to keep that vector from the HER. Let me draw this out a little bit better. Something like this. Okay. And then I can just draw a bunch of other arrows to compare them. So yeah, definitely a little bit more backed forecast by the NAM. What's the RAP got? The RAP's got a kind of a mess. And what is going on in Illinois with the RAP? The RAP is decently similar to the HER, though. The AI GFS is actually trending a lot closer to the NAM, with about 10 degrees more backed, it looks like. Whoops. The AI Euro is actually trending slightly more backed than the regular Euro. So that's interesting. I like the AI GFS. is always an interesting model. I feel like it does some weird things sometimes. The MBM, interesting. The MBM, it thinks it's going to be really windy in North Dakota.
Probably skewed.
Yeah. But yeah, in general, decent model agreement. I mean, everything's expecting the winds to be somewhat southwesterly, and perhaps just slightly more southerly than what the HRRR is at least forecasting. So again, if that environment's realized, where our winds are a little bit more backed, a little bit more out of the southeast or the south, that would be a little bit better for possible tornadic storm mode, essentially. I think we are probably going to be looking at some sort of a discrete supercell storm mode, at least for some duration of time tomorrow. Whether or not we get storms to fire in that environment is one thing, though, because like we were looking at, the HRRR, for example, is not exactly loving a lot of supercells, whereas the refs has a little bit more going on. The refs V2 is forecasting the giant supercell of doom and despair. So that's always fun to look at. The NAM is maybe a little bit more realistic to me. I actually think the NAM looks the most like what I'm expecting tomorrow, except maybe not quite this far to the west. But I think I'm kind of a NAM non-believer, to be honest with you. But I think the NAM's actually doing decent with this. So maybe we might want to roll with some of the mesoscale parameters as forecast by the NAM, because I think this actually looks like the most realistic environment for 6 p.m. on Monday. What do you guys think?
I think a lot tomorrow. If you look at the OOZ HRRR, it actually has more of a morning round MCS that actually washes out a good decent bit of the environment, at least in Wisconsin.
Yes.
So I think morning trends tomorrow and surface obs are going to be really crucial. I haven't personally looked at this event too much because I've been focusing on tropical stuff, but playing a model trend loop at least from the latest run, the 0Z HRRR, with past runs, it definitely seems like the morning round is turning a little more intense. That does impact the environment downstream. It looks like it even leaves off a boundary of some sort and just rips some supercells in Iowa.
Yeah,
which would be interesting. I'd probably actually have a pretty large hail threat and damaging wind threat. Looking at the profiles, though, it favors storms going outflow dominant. So I just think the morning round, it's 2026. Like, we can't have an event without a morning round being like some sort of an impact. So
this
we
is
just gotta
in fact
go
the
in
year
with our
of morning
expectations.
Morning convection and deviant tornadoes. Love it.
Yeah. We can take a look at a sounding. I know we haven't even done mesoscale parameters, but even a lot of these soundings are not going to be coming back looking super favorable. This is at 5 p.m. on Monday. Looks like maybe southern Wisconsin might be a slightly more favorable environment here. I know there were a lot of soundings that were being thrown up on social media that were showing, they were PDS tagged and all that business. I don't know that any of that environment's really going to be actuated, but realized. But yeah,
I'd say the further east that we're traveling, like towards the northern border of Illinois into southern Wisconsin, southwest Wisconsin, the more if storms can ride that boundary is going to be, in my opinion, the most favorable environment for tomorrow.
Yeah, I actually think this is not the most unrealistic expectation for what the environment will look like in southwestern Wisconsin and like the northeasternmost corner of Iowa for tomorrow, from what I'm seeing anyway. And I guess I'm doing this a little premature because I haven't looked at the mesoscale parameters yet. We should probably do that before I take a look at photographs. But what you will notice though is that your cape is I'm not going to use pink for this. There we go. That's a little better. Okay, so you can see a decently fat cape, plenty of helicity. I mean, a lot of helicity in the environment. But you'll notice this is by 8 p.m. and obviously we don't have any type of a cap in place to overcome at this point at all. And that's not terribly unusual because of where I selected this. I selected this in an area where storms haven't even touched the atmosphere yet. So that's why we're getting a sounding that looks this favorable. I think this is a really good depiction of what the ceiling of this environment is going to look like. And it's going to depend, like Pettis said, largely on what happens with the morning MCS, if that does come to fruition. If we are going to get a morning MCS that can kick off even a couple of early supercells, like Pettis said, those would definitely pose a hail threat. But most importantly, where those dissipate and where they kick out all of that cooler air is going to leave a pretty significant impact for the severe weather for later in the evening. So it could definitely be a significant limiting factor and a possible fail mode for tomorrow night.
Well, for my money, right? So when we're trying to discern between, the question, right? The big question on the table is the MCS going to wash out the environment? I think it's really good to go through the dew points, go through the dew point progressions, kind of compare it on different models so you can see the orientation of it right when we're expecting storms. So you can kind of see, if you've got that more west to east oriented boundary, you can really tell that morning convection really was able to come through and just kind of wash out the environment. But if you've got more of that southwest to northeast and it's still continuing to surge north, that surface low, you're getting better mass response. You can really tell which models are really picking up on which solutions to really determine whether or not the fail mode is going to come to fruition.
Yeah. So we can humor that thought and just go right through it here. Let me actually move the map a little bit so it's a little easier to see for everybody. There we go. And we can compare amongst model runs if you want from the HER, where I will say this intrigues me. What the 0Z is forecasting, almost like some sort of kink in the cold front here. Are you guys seeing this too? I don't know exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know exactly what it's thinking is going to cause that all of a sudden, but we can compare amongst different models as well. The refs is not showing that. It's actually showing the cold front moving a lot faster. Most model guidance is agreeing, it seems, with that cold front moving a little bit faster. Even the NAM. Yeah, I don't know if I would trust the HER on this.
It's right off the boundary of the HER does.
What?
I said death taxes and can't trust the HER.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah. Can't trust any
especially
model.
in the summer.
Yeah.
But the HER is notorious
honest,
for over mixing right
I
off
will
the
be honest,
boundary.
I really don't even look at the HER for this time of year. And listen, I champion the HER when it comes to like fall, winter, early spring. It's fantastic. It's arguably the GOAT. It's the Michael Jordan of models when it comes to early spring. But when it comes to summertime, I mean, I just don't even look at it half the time. And I just don't even take it serious. I mean, even just look past the past couple of events that we've had. I mean, look how bad it's done with moisture. Like at some points, it really, with dew points, it really fell off. Like it was off like 5 to 7 degrees. So, I don't know. I'm curious to see what the 0Z NAM nest has to say about tomorrow. I've been more so looking at that and a couple of the NSSL models for like how well the moisture and the overall thermodynamic profile is going to be tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But I'm curious to see what's going to happen with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the NSSL models, I really like using those this time of year.
Yep. Well, if that's what we roll with, it is showing our cold front progressing a little bit quicker. And I think that probably does make sense as well because we have very, very strong mid and upper level flow I kind of find it hard to believe that cold front will crawl. I think it will move pretty quick. But there's plenty of moisture. There is plenty of surface moisture. I mean, again, this is corn sweat season, so moisture is not necessarily a question mark here, really. But I mean, every single model is forecasting plenty of moisture.
Yeah, I don't think that's not going to be an issue at all. I mean, I think from a chasing perspective, I think my biggest concern is how long does the discrete mode stay? I like
Right.
your vectors tomorrow, at least as of from earlier this morning when I left. I liked your vectors off of the initiating front. My question is, as with more so any event that I chase, really, but
Mhm.
how long is that discrete mode going to stay? I overall overall I like your environment tomorrow for tornadoes. To be honest, I don't. I think that's just the golden question. I think tomorrow is how long do we stay discrete?
Yeah. And we can take a look at what that storm motion is going to look like relative to our boundary. And it's really going to hammer home the point that you're bringing up right now, Norman, is that we are very, very perpendicular to our forcing mechanism here. And I have this cold front drawn out like literally, and I know this is, right around initiation here. But 5 p.m., we are going to be very, very, very perpendicular to that forcing mechanism. So we could definitely see a lot of different discrete supercells if we're able to get through the cap. If we're able to get multiple, parcels to rise, hit that LFC, and explosively develop, we could definitely see a bunch of discrete supercells printed along this line. And it wouldn't shock me to see guidance by like the early AM hours tomorrow once there's more certainty in what's going to happen with the MCS in the morning. It wouldn't shock me to see models start printing supercells like crazy ahead of this cold front. And just basically what it's going to come down to, like you said, is storm mode. And I think for me, I don't know. I want to take a look at. I should have paid closer attention a minute ago. What our mid-level moisture is looking like. Okay, we're actually decently saturated through like where we would have. Well, I guess let me go back a couple hours. I mean, my map's all messy now. Hang on. There we go. Okay, let's go to actually 6 p.m. out ahead of the front, and let's see if we have a solid cap in place. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna see this is a small cap, and that's kind of what I'm worried about. Is in terms of like a fail mode for this is I think the cap might get overcome pretty easily, and I think we're gonna have a little bit more of like clustering and linear type of storms with a ton of storms firing off on that boundary because we're gonna have a forcing mechanism. We're gonna have enough cape in the environment. We're not gonna have a ton, but you don't necessarily need a ton when you have a forcing mechanism like that. And we're going to have a very, very, very small and pathetic cap to try and hold those storms down. So what we might see is a lot of storms firing off at a similar time along that line where they eventually cluster up. So how long is our discrete storm mode going to be, right? Are we just going to have a 30-minute to 60-minute window where storms aren't even able to mature enough to become tornadic during that time? Or are we going to see a little bit more of a cap develop? And I think the morning MCS is going to play a big role in that because it's going to widely determine how much cloud cover we get for the whole region, which, of course, will determine our cape values and our surface temperatures and so on and so on. So I think the morning MCS really is kind of the name of the game for what we're going to deal with tomorrow. And that really has been the theme of 2026. What do you guys think?
Yeah, the MCS is going to be really interesting to see how that pans out. I think that could. I haven't looked at the 0-0 runs I've been driving, so it's like
Right.
I don't know, but I think that it could ultimately shift the risk west if that MCS does pan out. And of course, then you got to watch for an outflow boundary play potentially. You also got to question the fact with the strong dynamics that we have, does any cloud debris not really matter in a sense in the terms of getting the instability due to the warm air advection? There's a lot of things to think about, but I think at the same time you kind of can't overthink these things. I guess from a chasing aspect, you kind of can't.
Right.
But a lot of things to think about, though, for sure.
Yeah. And to your point, I'm just going to show our 2 meter temperatures throughout the day on Monday. So as we roll through Monday, you're going to notice, I bet you we're going to even be able to see. That's kind of cool, actually. This is interesting. There's some sort of thermal. Why am I using yellow? Oh my goodness. Hang on. There's some sort of thermal boundary that is being slapped in place here. This is interesting. I didn't see this on anything else. This might just be like strictly a thermal boundary. What do you guys think?
What model's that? I can't zoom in.
This is
That
the
may be
HER.
the corn sweat gradient.
That it could be
You think it's just
could be the outflow boundaries from the morning storm.
Let's say-
That's
potentially.
exactly what I was thinking.
Looks like an outflow boundary to me. You can
Because
see
this
it
is
on the
by
dew
5
point
p.m.,
as
right?
well.
Yeah, exactly. Because we remember that MCS that was forecast throughout southern Wisconsin, right? And that outflow boundary would be by 5 p.m., of course, kicked way out from there. So that could play a very, very significant role tomorrow, because it could
Not
provide
mistaken,
another
there was
boundary.
a similar setup for Parkersburg in 2008.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that, did that storm latch on to that thermal boundary, and then was it able to remain
Pretty
discrete along that
sure
thermal
it
boundary?
did, and it remained discrete. Now, another thing I'm noticing tomorrow, a lot of the venting level, the anvil level winds are going to be blowing pretty much right downstream to where these storms are going to be heading. So these are going to be HP cells, I think, for the most part. I mean, just given the amount of moisture that's in the air. Now, somebody had mentioned they could see that boundary there on dew point, on the 2 meter dew point. You might check that too, because that would definitely solidify, is this a outflow boundary versus,
You
whatever.
can see the dew point pool there right along that gradient.
Yeah, there's something
you
there.
just look at Davenport.
Yeah.
Central Iowa.
It's tough to see, but it's right in there. You can see that it's like a gradient of purples there, which is co-located.
And if you
same
look
spot.
at, go back to the temperature or the dew point in the wind, there is what looks like to be a low level circulation up there in northern Iowa. And that would be playing right. There should be some kind of a triple point right there if you zoom in more to those wind vectors. So that, and this is where those mesoscale features really begin to, make themselves known here. That is something that you really need to pay attention to, because this could completely change the board for tomorrow.
Yeah, if something like this is seen in the environment, I completely agree with you. Like, I think we could easily see that one cell that fires off. The environment's decently favorable, but it latches on. And again, we have no idea exactly where this outflow boundary is going to set up, because there's a lot of uncertainty with the MCS tomorrow. But if we do get an outflow boundary like this and a storm is able to fire off and latch onto it, it'll be able to establish really good inflow, because those winds will get artificially backed. What you're seeing at the surface here is winds that are coming out of the southeast, right? So it's going to have much better inflow, and it's got plenty of moisture. It's in fact going to be bringing in inflow from the even more moist side of that boundary. A storm in that environment, like from what I'm seeing anyway, again, this is one model run from the HER that's showing this, right? But we do know that something like this is very much on the table tomorrow. If we get something like this and we get a storm that fires off on this cold front, and obviously our storm motion vector, as we talked about earlier, is perfectly along this boundary. So if it latches onto that boundary and just starts to roll on towards the southeast, we could definitely see a cell that becomes one that could produce a more significant tornado potentially.
Yep. Yeah, I'm looking at the HRRR model right now, the 00Z run at 5 p.m. It looks like over by Charles City, Rockwell, at least for what it's showing right now, behind the morning convection. They're not necessarily morning at this rate, but at 5 o'clock, it's showing a cell that's kind of trying to plant itself, and those soundings coming out of that are actually pretty decent. You have your cape above 3,000. I'm showing right here effective inflow of 44 knots. So really good cape above 99th percentile. Fixed rates 99th. But yeah, it's honestly something that I would definitely be keeping my eye on. I've been keeping my eye on that north central Iowa corridor for a while now, and some runs were showing it on HRRR. Last few ones were not showing it so much. This latest one is definitely showing it again. So I'm going to be watching that really, really close. That'll be one that I stick myself into tomorrow if that holds.
Yeah, if this environment is realized, for sure, we could easily be looking at the risk for that SIG 1 level tornado or potentially even a SIG 2. Now, I don't think a SIG 2 hatching is necessary on the forecast tomorrow as of this moment. But we could definitely see a significant tornado for tomorrow if this certain model scenario is realized. I didn't even realize that we had a cell modeled by the HRRR that's firing off literally on this thermal boundary. I'm also looking at, by the way, exactly 5 p.m. on the 0Z HRRR. So I was, when you said that, I was like, what? And I flipped to the SimRef and I was like, well, okay, we do literally, in fact, have a supercell sitting on that boundary. So even our cams potentially picking up on the risk for a supercell to fire off and remain discreet and latch onto that outflow boundary. So definitely maybe an elevated risk if that type of environment is realized for a strong tornado or two, where we could see cells interact with that boundary.
Yeah, I agree. I agree all the way.
Well, I will say you did just get a question in the chat. I'm not sure if you're looking, but you do have a question asking whether or not you think a 10% SIG 1 is possible for, it doesn't say when, but I'm assuming for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or at least, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that a 10% is on the table for tomorrow. I don't know if they're going to issue it by 1 a.m. tonight. It depends. If guidance starts to really like hone into this type of interaction happening, where we have that morning MCS that isn't like going to last super long and kicks out a pretty good outflow boundary, I definitely think that a 10% could be in the picture by 1 a.m. But I think if they were going to do that, it would most likely be inching towards something like basically the 8 a.m. update. Essentially, they might introduce a 10% risk at that point. What do you guys think? Are we in agreement?
I agree.
I agree all the
Yeah,
way.
for sure. Yeah.
I agree.
I think 10%. I'm not going to say it's likely tomorrow, but I definitely think it's very possible. It wouldn't shock me. But
Just
No, it
given
wouldn't
the
shock
way
me
that
either.
not every event, but a lot of severe weather events have not come to fruition, I would not be surprised at all to see the Storm Prediction Center go a little bit conservative on issuing a 10% for tomorrow, and then wait until the 8 a.m. Central Time update to introduce that 10% if they're going to do it. Just because, like I said, they're undergoing a lot of pressure right now because a lot of the environments have had weird anomalous things happen. So there's a lot of pressure to get the forecast right now. So I wouldn't be shocked at all to see them issue a 10% at 8 a.m. but not issue a 10% at 1 a.m. tonight for the 6Z update.
Agree.
Okay.
2026.
So, let's go through a couple of mesoscale parameters for tomorrow really quickly. And then what I want to do is go revisit the Storm Prediction Center's outlook and see what we think about it. If we think there should be any changes, like just in our opinions. Obviously, we don't issue outlooks. Of course, the Storm Prediction Center is the best place and the only place to get your outlooks. But we can talk about it and see what we think. Cool little exercise. Let's look at our LCL heights here, and we can take a look across multiple models as well. Let's just keep rolling with like, oh wow. I guess it really doesn't matter what time frame I pick because there's so much moisture in this environment that we're definitely Northeast Iowa and Southwest Wisconsin are most certainly going to have low enough LCLs for storms to be surface based and us to get tornadoes. So that is interesting. It looks like the refs doesn't exactly agree with that. I guess I can go back. Yeah, the refs doesn't exactly agree with that. The V2 does a little more. That doesn't make any sense to me. That also doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Interesting. Well, interesting. So the wrap, for example, is forecasting like really low LCL heights for the entire region. I think the HER genuinely feels the most realistic to me for what that environment will look like. And you can also see where that outflow boundary is set up too on here, which of course changes
I definitely
things.
think that's going to be the most realistic there, especially the outflow boundary being. I mean, you can basically just draw it out with a paint, with a pen if you wanted to, but that's kind of, I think, the most realistic for tomorrow, given the other things we've seen.
Yeah. Okay, let's take a look at our 0 to 3 kilometer storm relative helicity. We're looking at 8 p.m. here right now. Maybe go to 7 p.m. With the HER and then the refs, ref V2. Yeah, a lot of these, every single model is in agreement with plenty of helicity available in this environment. Every single model, in fact, is forecasting 200 plus. And numerous of them, like 50% of models, are forecasting even reaching to the 300 to 400 range. I think some of these little pockets of like 900 SRH are not accurate. That's not going to be realized, obviously. But definitely a higher end risk for a lot of spin available to updrafts. Scott saying, what do you consider minimum low enough LCLs on average for support? I guess we can just round table it. You guys just want to kind of like, everyone just kind of give your answer to this. I guess I can go first. Minimum low enough LCLs, you can get, I think I've seen tornadoes upwards of like 1,500, I think. Generally though, like anything above or below 1,000, I'm like, that's favorable enough. As long as the environment's there.
It also depends on where in the U.S. you are. So like Dixie versus the plains, your LCL heights are going to vary depending on tornado probability as well.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right about that.
And they'll
Also
vary
depending
in
on
the
altitude.
plains. Yeah, I was about to say, depending on where you are on the plains, if you're in, eastern Colorado, that's going to be completely different. But, in this region of the country, I'd say, 1,000's decent. That's kind of like the bare minimum there for me.
Anyone else want to take a stab at it?
Yeah, I'm basically on the same planet. Like he just said, in eastern Colorado, 1,000 LCL, and in Mississippi, 1,000 LCL.
Yeah.
Generally, for this region and this type of parameter space, and I'd want to see some basically at 1,000 or below 1,000.
Yeah.
I'd be in the same boat, pretty much. I mean, obviously, the lower the better, but I think 1,000 can get it done easily.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. And I'm definitely glad you guys brought up like altitude and regional variability as well, because that's definitely an important thing to consider that I, of course, didn't mention with my answer. We did get another question from Kaysen in the chat saying, how might this tropical storm affect rocket operations in Starbase, Texas, and Cape Canaveral, Florida, such as Starship, Falcon 9, etc.? Wouldn't splashdown / landing be affected the most? I didn't know if anyone wanted to take a stab at that one.
I feel like CJ could do that. You're a rocket nerd, right?
Yeah, somewhat. My dad lives over on the Space Coast, so it is neat to see. If you've never seen one, go see a rocket launch. There's nothing more primal than big boom. But no, I think Cape Canaveral, they're going to be more affected more or less by general summer thunderstorms here than anything. Because really, the east coast of our state, it's not really feeling the effects of this too much. Starbase, on the other hand, they will probably see some form of impact to their operations. Usually, Cape Canaveral, I forget what their specific what their operational, like when they finally say, okay, we're going to shut down now. I don't know what their limit is, but I can't imagine it's going to be, that they're going to try to send up a rocket with even, 20, 30, 40 mile an hour winds at the ground level. I can't imagine that'd be a fun ride. So I think that this definitely is going to impact that. What those specific impacts are, I have no idea.
Well, fantastic. I appreciate the insight, CJ. Let's go ahead and jump into let's see, what do you guys want to go with? Which cape do you guys want to look at? You guys want like your 0 to 3, mute cape, ML cape, surface base? What do you want?
Surface.
Let's go
Go to
surface.
mixed layer. Go to the best one. Go to mixed layer.
Blair.
Norman has overruled.
Flip back.
You've gone to the
Yeah, I
mixed layer.
apologize. I had an important phone call there. I apologize.
Oh, no, you're okay. So we are seeing in our general vicinity of the cold front, again, we do have this weird kink showing up in our cold fronts on the HUR anyway. That's probably not going to come to fruition, but we do have that outflow boundary in place for sure. And you know what? I bet that kink is probably due to the outflow boundary slowing it down. I would assume that's
I
probably
wonder if
what the HUR
that's
is thinking.
co-located with that triple point.
Yeah,
we
so
were
that would be like right over
before.
here, which is where that storm.
It's almost like a
fired
dry
off
line
from.
bulge.
Yeah. Really odd. If that actually
believe
comes to
that's
fruition, that would be very interesting. Yeah, you
I
can
think
see that's
so.
like the wake of where these storms just came from, like right off that triple point.
Mhm.
Very interesting.
Which is worth noticing. The low level flow, right? Your surface flow is rapidly strengthening as you go through the evening, dropping as much as 5 to 10 millibars, or not 10, but roughly around 5 to 6 millibars through the course of the afternoon to the evening. So you're getting a much stronger mass response to try to pull this boundary more northward oriented. You're fighting it really hard between the cold front and the boundary. So it's doing a lot of funky things as it's trying to recover, but that morning convection kind of holds it still.
Yeah. And I do think that the more north to south that orientation of the boundary does become, the less likely that we are going to be to have a more tornadic setup, especially in Wisconsin. Now, in northeastern Iowa, especially, I definitely would still keep it on the table, and I would still be watching it very closely, especially if we get like some triple point action like what we're seeing in this modeled scenario. But for sure, I think you would end up with a lot more clustering if that cold front does become a little bit more north-south oriented, just because your storm motion vector is really coming down towards the southeast pretty cleanly. So it would not shock me to see a lot of storms that just quickly cluster up through like southeastern Minnesota type of deal in an event like this. I don't think that's necessarily going to happen though, at least not exactly like it's being forecast here. Anyway, other models, what we're looking at with our mixed layer cape. Generally decently consistent in showing plenty of instability throughout northeastern Iowa and southwestern Wisconsin, also all the way back up through the UP. And that's part of the reason we're looking at that wind threat that's going to extend all the way up into the UP of Michigan, where we could still see a spin up tornado, by the way, in that environment, because there will still be some SRH in that area. We're going to have a little bit of spin that we can get going, but.
Did you see Caleb's question about limiting factors and best factors?
I did not. So Caleb asking in the chat, what would you say are all of our limiting or bust factors? Does anyone want to just roll them off?
I have a couple actually.
Mhm.
I think our diurnal heating might be a limiting factor. If we don't have enough heating on the surface, they're going to struggle to fire. And if that cold front catches up too quickly, we're going to go linear quite quickly as well. So I think those are the two main things we need to really watch for: is not having enough instability in the atmosphere, having enough heating at the surface, and then how well they can stay in the isolated mode versus having the cold front push them to be linear.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think the morning MCS is going to be just how it sets up, if it sets up at all, where exactly it sets up, how powerful it is, how long it lasts. Like literally everything to do with your morning convection is going to provide some sort of a fail mode, just depending on the way it sets up. If it's a lot stronger and moves a little slower, it's going to stop even more of that heating and push out an even stronger outflow boundary that could make the environment a little bit less favorable and just kind of eat up all those resources, plus provide a lot of cloud cover to stop us from getting enough heating to break the cap that it would also help to build. So the morning MCS is definitely a strong limiting factor. And then generally our storm mode, if we don't have enough of a cap, obviously we could end up with a lot of clustering of our storms. And if our cold front does orient itself a little bit more north-south, like I talked about just a few minutes ago, that could also result in storms that form and then quickly cluster up because they're moving off to the southeast. So eventually you'd have all sorts of overlapping storms, essentially, and a slightly more linear storm mode as a result. Anyone else got anything on that?
No, I think the morning MCS. I think you hit the nail right on the head. I think that's the number one issue more than anything. And again, that could absolutely just kill the setup, or it could just push it west. You just don't know. Like you just never know until it really happens. But yeah, I think it. At least for mine, I'm maybe not too worried about thermodynamics a little bit. Personally, I could be wrong, and I probably am wrong. I don't know, but morning MCS for sure.
I don't completely disagree on thermodynamics because you don't need great thermodynamics when you have this type of synoptic support and a good forcing mechanism, because we do have a very, very clear and like well-defined cold front that's going to roll through this area that is backed by a pretty solid synoptic setup at the upper level. So I don't think we need the best thermos to get this going, essentially.
I could agree with
The
that.
only side thermodynamically I would be concerned with is going to be the far low level thermodynamics. Are we going to be too mixed? Say we initiate a little bit early before we've had that stronger reinforcement of the boundary, you might get a little more inverted V profiles, like some of the modeling has shown over the course of the last 2 days. It's not been overly shown throughout the models in general, but it is something that's been there where you might have some outflow driven storms, even in lieu of the strong upper level venting.
Yeah.
So definitely something to
I will
watch.
say that there's a point with what you just said, Adrian, about the upper level venting. I do think any supercells tomorrow that can get going, I actually think they'll be quite classic. I'm not going to say they're completely LP, but I think they'd be actually quite visible if they were to drop a tornado. At least from a pure chasing perspective, I really like your mid to upper level venting quite a lot. So, at least in terms of a pro for chasing tomorrow, I think that's a really big positive for tomorrow. So
I think especially if one gets going along the boundary too, because it's going to dive more southward.
Yeah,
it's going to deviate more right of the right moving vector
Yes,
too,
sir.
if that's the case. And I think with the moisture issue, I would tend to bank on the likely scenario being I don't think we end up with inverted V's, just solely because, well, it's July with evapotranspiration. We're not going to be any poor quality of moisture whatsoever. And once again, we said it earlier, and I'll hammer that point. It's the big model in the room that has the inverted V's is the HER, which take that for what you will. So,
right.
That's personally, at least my experience over the past 5 years chasing this time of year, I really like using the NAM 3 kilometer, at least for the thermodynamics and the moisture quality. Now I understand surface temperature, at least for those that can forecast a little bit more that are watching this. The NAM 3 kilometer sucks with surface temperature, but at least in terms of moisture depth and quality, it usually does a really good job. So I think realistically, that's probably going to be somewhat more of the likely scenario. I think we'll mix some, of course, obviously, duh, but straight inverted V's in July in Iowa, I don't think so.
Well, Take a look at the sounding of doom and despair pulled by the NAM here.
I only imagine.
God, I love the NAM.
The NAM is so funny. That is some obese cape. I mean, that is.
I don't know if we'll get to that level of instability, but
lock it in.
Yeah,
lock it in, bro. The NAM. The problem with the NAM is the NAM also tends to overestimate shear, while like like the RAP tends to underestimate shear because it's really bad with surface winds and stuff. But I feel like for a good, it'd probably be a good middle zone for like in between.
Yeah.
I would naturally think, at least for with wind shear.
I mean, I will say, if we get the type of storm mode that the NAM is forecasting, and that kind of we are forecasting a little bit from our own analysis, everything that we've been talking about is somewhere between what we're seeing here with the NAM and what we're seeing with the HRRR, where the HRRR has a little bit more clustering going on back towards like Wisconsin, and then a kind of a similar situation through Iowa and southwestern Wisconsin. If that's kind of the happy medium that we get, we could see an environment that looks kind of something similar to this, where we get that widespread severe weather day. And especially in southwestern Wisconsin and northeastern Iowa, we could be looking at a strong tornado or two, potentially even a higher ceiling than that in terms of intensity, just depending on how that environment gets realized. And if we get any type of mesoscale interactions with the morning boundary from the MCS. And all that business. So there are a lot of layers to this severe weather setup, to say the least. I'm
about to head out because I gotta wake up early, but I think for me tomorrow, wherever that MCS, I think.
Hey, Will, if you don't mind, I know we're kind of working like our height falls, if you can.
Wait, what?
R.I.P.
Something about height falls.
Yeah, can you pull up 500 millibar height falls if you can?
I can give you 500 millibar winds and height.
Yeah, there's at least on Pivotal, there's a feature where on the RAP you can look. I know from this morning.
The internet might be chalked.
We might be losing Norman.
Hey, I will say that there are falls. But then give me a second, fellas.
Yeah, we might be. Wait, okay.
If you do want to look
finish,
at
Mikey, what were you
cool?
saying?
Me?
I was saying, for me, it's gonna depend where that morning MCS actually travels, because I think probably on the west side of that is where the most favorable environment's gonna set up. I'm pretty convinced that we're gonna see a photogenic tornado somewhere tomorrow, but it definitely depends on that morning MCS. So I'm gonna start driving at like 4:30 a.m. tomorrow, and I'm just gonna watch how that transpires and pick my target based on that. Because, like I said, I'm pretty convinced that we're gonna see a tornado somewhere, but definitely depends on that morning MCS, and that's pretty much what my forecast is hinging on.
Well, lucky me, I don't have to drive very far at all. I can sleep in.
Yeah, Alan's like what? You have an hour and a half probably to get to.
Yeah, at the most, at the absolute most.
For context, Alan is based
is my
in
internet
central
back,
Iowa. Yeah, I can hear you, Norman.
Oh, thank God. Okay. No, so what I was saying was on Pivotal, I don't know if it's offered on Weatherfront or any other.
I don't have a commercial license with Pivotal, so I can't show.
I gotcha.
Their maps, but
okay. Well, what I was saying was this morning when I looked at the RAP for their height falls, there was actually quite a bit of widespread height falls, which could indicate that hey, we might have a little bit more of a widespread area to watch for severe weather. Which I hate to side with the NAM overall, but I think it might be doing it right just a little bit in terms of how widespread it is.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Really quickly, you see those, go back to SIMREF and look at those Iowa supercells. And then you can actually, on the 0Z8RRR,
Okay.
and then if you go to the total snow parameter, it leaves about a 2-inch snow swath because of the ARRR.
What?
No shot. What are you talking about? I'm
Go
not even
to
seeing
total
that.
snowfall.
That's what I'm looking
It's
at.
not like
10
We're
to
looking
1.
at it.
Are you looking at it 10 to 1?
It's not 10 to 1. It's just total snowfall.
Oh.
Oh.
What are we talking about?
Wait,
Oh my
what?
God.
Hail
Wait,
reflects
what's this,
as
bro?
snow.
Dude.
Oh,
Wow,
he's
the her
right.
is tweaking.
No,
No,
he's
it's hail.
right. It's
It's
like
hail.
it's the hail.
It's gotta be
hail,
measuring
but
hail.
It's
Yeah,
literally
it's
dropping
gotta
a
be
hail
measuring
swath
hail.
on the map. That's actually really unique.
That is wild.
Yeah. What's it showing? Let's see. 2.5, 3 inches of accumulated
3 inches.
hail,
That's
bro.
plowable
Oh my
hail.
goodness.
Wow.
Plowable
I'm
hail.
swimming in it.
That's absolutely insane.
What prompted you to look at the total snowfall?
Shout out
He's wish casting.
Isaiah Montgomery on Twitter who replied with that to one of my
Oh.
tweets.
Bro, Isaiah is the goat of Twitter. He
We love
posts so many
Isaiah.
funny things.
And
For context, what we're
for
talking
whatever
about, by the way,
reason,
we're looking at a total snowfall accumulation map from what the HER is showing. And the reason it's showing this is because it's forecasting, frozen liquid to be falling out of the sky. And that's because it's forecasting hail, but it's forecasting a pretty good amount of hail with a couple of these stronger cells. You can see, let me go back a little bit. You can see through Monday night, it's forecasting some ridiculously and not accurately strong cells, most likely anyway. We could see a cell or two like this, but it's forecasting some ridiculous cells, and it's forecasting a lot of hail. So it's rendering it as snow.
I was looking more into it, and that hail / snow swath, whatever you want to call it, actually reflects on 2-meter temperatures as well. Like
Does
it's
it
as
really?
low as 57 degrees. Exactly where that total
2
snowfall.
points.
Chasing blizzards in July, guys.
What is this?
I have no clue what the ARRR is doing here, but
the HER has lost the plot, bro.
it literally stays there for like a long time. What in the world? It like
Wow.
lingers.
The HER has
Now
saw
it's literally
Jesus.
it's forecasting enough hail to fall that it's got a high enough it's not even albedo at this point. We're 2 a.m. It's not reflecting anything.
Dude, that's just
It's
straight
just so
ice
cold, it's
chilling the
just freezing
surface.
everything.
It's reflecting
What
the
is going
moonlight.
on?
That's what it's doing.
The HER has lost its mind. That's actually really, I don't know that I've ever seen that before. I don't think I've ever seen that. That's really interesting.
Watch
I've
it
seen it a few
verify.
times, but
Watch
I
it verify.
I haven't seen it reflect on temperatures like that
Yeah.
from my time with Mr. ARRR, but
Dude, that is hilarious. Like this
Wow.
this is crazy. This part right here where it forecasts it down to 50 degrees. Like, what are we doing in the middle of this hail
I will
swath?
say, from a chasing perspective, this ARRR run is probably the ceiling of what tomorrow could be from a pure chasing standpoint, where you have a Ripper supercell going down a boundary like that. I just saw a Twitter post from Michael Mars saying this is why we chase in all capitals. And
Look at how clear you can see this. You can see that boundary
If that were to,
Mikey's talking about.
if that were to verify tomorrow, that would certainly be quite the chase. The question is, does it verify or not? So I'm gonna head out though because I gotta get some rest.
Yeah, no problem,
I'm gonna
Mikey.
be heading out here shortly because it's
Yeah,
about
I can
approaching 10:30 Eastern.
Right. No, we're gonna probably end off the broadcast here in just a second as well. But I do want to quickly before you guys run, ask if anybody has any other questions in the chat. Any of our members, for anybody on the team. Of course, we've got Alan, CJ, James, Mikey, myself, Adrian. We even have Blake and Braden in here as well. Non-meteorologist members of our team. And then we have Lorian, Norman, and Tim as well. If you guys have any questions about meteorology, what we're doing at WillBrattonWx, or what their plans are for our storm chasers tomorrow, what their plans are, or anything like that, feel free to drop them in the chat now. I'll give you guys like a minute to see if we have any other questions to go through, and then we'll end off the broadcast. But while I wait for a question or two, I do want to thank all of you guys for helping out tonight and doing what is a really unique broadcast with me here. I really appreciate it. Obviously, I try to tell you guys as often as I can, but you guys are awesome, very talented, very intelligent people that we're super lucky to have here. So I really appreciate you guys taking your time tonight to help us communicate this type of stuff to the public and show off a little bit of what goes on behind the scenes here at WBWX. We do have a considerable severe thunderstorm warning, by the way, that's splitting North Dakota and South Dakota for McIntosh County, North Dakota, and Campbell and McPherson, South Dakota. This is just, you can see a little bit of a hail spike showing up here near Zeeland. And this is going to be tagged for that golf ball sized hail. And let's see.
Also, smash that
What's
like
the
button
DB
if you
what's
haven't.
the DBZ on it?
The DBZ's on this.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes, I've never got to
We
say
have
this
one
before.
pixel at
so I like
70.5
that.
DBZ.
Oh my gosh.
Also, are we going to do a briefing on Tuesday by chance?
Define briefing. Like
Just like quick summary overview. Doesn't have to be anything crazy.
Like, are you talking as a team or for a forecast video, or what do you mean?
No, just on the live, just on here.
Oh, yeah, like a live hit while you're out in the field.
No, hold on a second. I'm going through Culver's. Give me a second.
Like another one of these.
No, I mean like a breakdown because you said you was going to do tomorrow and Tuesday.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, I was thinking we could go through Tuesday, but we used up a lot of time going through the tropics and then going through all the stuff for tomorrow, and I don't want to keep you guys here super late.
That's fair.
We've got a really busy 2-day span coming up.
I will say Tuesday from off rip is looking like it depends, at least the mid-south risk, sort of lower Ohio Valley risk, sort of depends on what happens tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
So it's one of those sort of things. But the Pennsylvania risk up there, upper Appalachia, like that looks like a legit damaging wind risk up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
And they have that 45% risk outlined for that whole area currently. Storm Prediction
Yeah,
Center.
basically.
Yes.
The entire upper Ohio Valley definitely needs to be watching out for that because there was a similar issue year before last where Pittsburgh had, I think, 90-mile-per-hour winds out of a derecho that came through. And this is that time of year, so wouldn't surprise me at all to see that wind risk
Yeah.
really start to hang on up there.
I did want to
will
say,
say this. Go ahead, Will.
oh, I was just going to say, looking at the tornado probabilistic outlook for tomorrow, if I was sitting in the chair making the calls, I would probably be extending the SIG 1 down through this region, maybe even slightly further than that into northeastern Iowa. Maybe that's not the best. I would maybe do something along the lines of this for the SIG 1 risk, and then I would possibly introduce a 10% somewhere in the middle of that, like near the Iowa and southwestern Wisconsin region, somewhere in there type of deal. With that's probably what I would be leaning towards right now, but I'm not going to lie. I don't think I would issue a 10% by the 1 a.m.
No,
I would
wouldn't either.
probably be waiting for the 8 a.m. update.
I think that's pretty much perfect. I mean, I think my thing with I'll speak on Tuesday real quick. I'm more so focused, of course, tomorrow. I can't look at multiple things at once when I'm chasing because my brain just gets so just put in a pretzel. But I think Tuesday could be really interesting, at least for tornadoes. I will say the SPC discussion for the day 2 mentioned a more dominant supercell mode with all hazards, which really makes me interested. And I kind of like Tuesday solely because, well, I don't want to get too in depth with it because looks like we're about to get off alive. But I do like your vectors, your bulk shear vectors on Tuesday as well, and I also like your 300 jet. I've also noticed that at least I've noticed. I got taught by a good friend of mine, Ben Holcomb, about the 300 millibar jet when I first started chasing, and a lot of times when you get that 300 millibar jet, that really just points to right where you need to be for your tornado setup. And of course, it's not all about the 300s, but that kind of, your 300 jet also kind of it helps. So I don't know. I think Tuesday will be a really good damaging wind threat. I don't know. I just don't know. I do think you could get tornadoes Tuesday, but because your bulk shear vectors look nice. But
I think that there will for sure at the very least be a 2% on the day 2 outlook. I would be very surprised.
I'd say at least a 5%.
Yeah, especially for Western Pennsylvania, and then back maybe through like southeastern Ohio, where Norman's from. I don't know about
Norman,
back through
get
Kentucky.
slabbed, bud.
Yeah, well, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to chase tomorrow bus and then go home, and I'm going to get a tornado warning near my house.
There you go.
I swear it happens. It doesn't even have to be local like that. It's just like literally when I went up to Canada, hardly got anything. I got like a high base supercell, and then oops, once I get back to the States, nope, I get tornadoes. So I fully expect that to happen.
Yeah. Canada, Alberta's been active, bro.
Let's see here.
Yeah, we got a couple questions in the chat.
What's everyone's favorite snack? I'll answer that quickly. Casey's, if I'm on the go on a storm chase, Casey's has these like burger sliders that have bacon and barbecue on it. Oh my gosh, those are wonderful.
Yeah. CJ?
I'll go.
Those are great, but you can't top the Casey's pizza though. The Casey's pizza is second to none.
I've never
Casey's,
had Casey's.
Definitely. Casey's is always that or Brahms. I love me some Brahms when I'm in Oklahoma.
Okay, before everyone else answers, we do have a
Brahms
follow-up
mentioned.
for this, which is, so everyone give us your favorite snack, and then also give us your favorite snack that doesn't make any sounds when you eat it, so like it doesn't crunch. That's best for chasing. That's Scott's question.
Oh, the ice cream, easy. As long as you get
ice cream while you're
sauce.
chasing?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yes.
Brahms, dude. Brahms. It's a drive-through. Come on now.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Twizzlers.
Wait, so a snack that
Yeah, I
doesn't
would
make
agree with
like
Brahms.
a loud crunch?
Yeah, a snack
So,
that doesn't
like-
make a sound to eat it, like not chips.
Okay,
more or less.
I
is
gotta
what
go
he's-
with
what he's saying.
Skittles gummies.
Oh, okay.
Skittles gummy.
Interesting.
So that's a little out
That's a
left
unique
field, but
one.
I love them.
Peach rings.
Peach rings.
Yes. Love them.
Shut up.
Cherry
Peach rings.
Twizzlers. Cherry Twizzlers. Gotta give them some love.
Twizzlers
Yeah.
are
Dude,
disgusting.
Twizzlers, no.
No, yeah.
Everybody either
Yeah,
loves or
Dude.
hates Twizzlers. Like I've never met someone who's like, yeah,
Ah.
like I could take it or leave it. Like everyone's
It's
passionate
not even
yes
like
or no.
typical licorice. It's like straight
Right.
sugar. It's great. It's great.
Mine would have to be those nerd clusters, those gummy nerd clusters things.
Yes, bro. Nerd
Well,
I
club.
can't
rate
do
you
those.
this. I rate you the berry nerd clusters. Arguably better.
Do those.
Yeah.
Arguably better.
I like
Actually, not even
the
arguably.
Sour Patch Kids, like the watermelon things. Those are fire.
Oh, dude, I forgot about those.
Those are
good.
so
Oh, those
good.
are good.
Big fan of those.
For regular snacks, I gotta say, I gotta go with Cheez-Its, specifically white cheddar Cheez-Its. Those are just, I
Oh,
love
those
them
are
to death.
great, but those make a crunch.
The cheddar
Well, I'm
jack.
saying for the
too.
other question. I'm saying for the other
Ah,
question.
okay.
The
No, those
the
are fire.
non-crunchy
I
question.
love white cheddar
I'm a
Cheez-Its.
toasty Cheez-It truther.
I respect
love
it.
toast
I
Cheez-Its.
respect it. One more
Bro, the
question, especially
favorite-
before the
the
storm
favorite-
chasers leave, is what's the craziest tornado that everybody chased?
I've
Here,
got
let
two.
me. Oh, yeah, here a second.
We can go in any order.
Mine
I mean,
was
I'll start. I've never seen an official surveyed tornado before, so I'm sort of the rookie, the noob out here. But
The software
hoping to
designer.
make it out to the plains.
They keep this guy in the office.
Yeah,
I saw acting
Reed doesn't let him get out. Reed keeps you in a cage.
God. Yeah. Akron, my beloved.
Yeah.
So I have two tornadoes that were by far the craziest ones I've ever chased. I'll start off with Lena, the Lena, Illinois EF2. That was a very large wedge style tornado. It was extremely rain wrapped. Hardly anybody got a good view of it. My other chaser and a driver, his name is Mason Galliser. He was driving for me that day, and we 0-metered it as it just hit the ground. Reed Timmer was there too. That was kind of fun, but that one just it just grew so quickly, and the RFD surge on that was absolutely insane. It's actually the one and only storm chase that I absolutely lost my utter mind, and I had to let out all that pent up energy from that adrenaline I got, and I screamed my head off on that one. That was intense. And then the next one would have been, I think, the second strongest tornado of the year. I could be wrong on this, but St. Labori, Nebraska. That one was an incredible stovepipe, and I was quite close to that. And man, what a day that was! But those are my craziest tornadoes for sure.
Yeah, I'd say I have two as well. The definitely probably the stronger of the two would be the Plevna EF2. I saw that one. That was a large wedge at night. That was right before it was a tornado emergency for Greensburg. So I think just like that night, like the eeriness of it was definitely. But I would say honestly, Will, that one that we saw in South Dakota,
Dude, that was
was
weird.
just a crazy chase. The RFD. The storm structure was not typical at all. There were times like you couldn't even like really realize what you were looking at.
Yeah.
Because it was just very disorienting, and very frustrating at times trying to figure out like, what am I looking at?
Yeah.
And it all just kind of ramped up real quick. So definitely those would be the two for me.
Say what, Mikey?
It was wild. And that, are you talking about Ideal, South Dakota?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, when that thing roped out, we were discussing it in the storm chasers. Yeah, we were all talking about it. That rope out was like way out.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
like
it
way out
was-
dislocated from the rest of the updraft.
It was one of the weirdest tornadoes I've ever seen, and one of the weirdest supercells. Although that's meso, like the meso fest we saw in Montana was interesting too. That was kind of nuts.
That was really cool. We didn't see
like
any
the day
tornadoes from
before.
that, but like
No.
it literally looked like a million little, like tiny little spaceships. It was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen, like meteorologically.
So yeah,
like,
this
just
year was
strange.
definitely this year has been the weirdest chase year I've personally had. But, I would say like this whole year has just been crazy.
Yeah. I guess for me the craziest tornado was probably the Bogachita tornado, as that one was the most technical chase I've ever done by far. And maybe the most technical one I might do for even a long time, because it was just such a difficult chase day. And it was a mile wide EF3 in down in the heart of Dixie, down in Mississippi. I mean, heavily wooded. The damage was insane. The aftermath too, like seeing people afterwards who were, vehicles like really, really, really beat up, and like all of, rendezvousing at this gas station. It was a scene, it wasn't a super easy one. That was definitely the craziest one. And it wasn't photogenic. I still haven't really even seen like a super photogenic tornado. Everything that I've seen has been very like, or at least that one anyway was very it was rain wrapped. Like it was very rain wrapped. We were within the rain wrap of it, so like you can take your phone out and try to take pictures. You don't even know exactly what you're looking at, because you're watching the winds change as the tornado passed across this road right in front of us from left to right, the direction we were facing, and you could just watch the winds change with the rain. And you could look up and see the circulation when you looked up, and it was insane. But that was a really technical one, and that was definitely the craziest and probably the sketchiest too. But we were in a safe spot though.
For me, or you can go ahead, Mikey. You can go ahead.
Me?
Yeah, you got it.
For me, it'd probably have to be the Kyoto, Iowa EF4 back on like, was that March 31st, 2023? Because I don't even think I have my driver's license yet, but me and my dad went out there and we chased the first EF3. We got like really close range to that. Like, I think we were like 200 yards from that one, and then the Kyoto EF4, and that was my first like major tornado. I'd seen a couple strong ones, but that one really, like, I was really, really hooked after I saw that one. That was a crazy tornado.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is I'm kind of like Alan and CJ. I have two that's kind of like a toss-up. The first one was the Plevna, Kansas, the EF3. Me and Adrian were on that one. And at one point, we were close enough to hear the roar. And then at another point, we were in the cone of silence. And just the perspectives between the two, just the roar, just the beast of the tornado, and then you're in the silence where there's literally nothing. It's insane. And then the second one would be the Kankakee, Illinois tornado from earlier this year. We tracked it all the way from pretty much when it formed through its stovepipe phase into the wedge, and just the hail that it dropped and everything. It was just way so cool. It was insane.
Yeah.
I would say I have 3 that's tied, but I won't go into the third one. Just save time. The craziest experience I ever had, actually, was my first year was chasing the Mayfield Bremen EF4. That was my first ever violent tornado experience, and of course, it had to have been in December in Kentucky.
Yeah.
I was actually with a buddy of mine that didn't want to go down there. He wanted to go towards like St. Louis on that target, and I kind of just overruled it and said I want to go to like Western Kentucky. So we were originally on the Ohio River on the warm front stuff, and that stuff fizzled out. But then we were watching a buddy, I think of mine, I don't know if it was Brandon Payne, I don't know who it was, but someone I knew told me, they said like big tornadoes on the ground, whatever. And this is when the Arkansas EF4 was going on. So I said, you know what? Let's just try to meet it. Like, I mean, it's going to be a long tracked event. Let's just do it. So we drove 2 hours to get to Hartford, just probably about like 5-10 minutes east of Bremen, and just trying to drive through windy back roads. It's kind of like slightly raining. Tornado emergency got issued. Like, and we're just like, first year chasing. I'm just like, dude, this is really stupid. But eventually we got within probably, I'd say it was like a half a mile or a quarter of a mile from it. And all you can see was like the outline of it in the RFDs that wrapped around, and seeing like power flashes on the leading edge of the tornado and stuff. And that was pretty surreal. And then number 2, it's got to be St. Library.
Yeah.
That experience, I almost passed out purely from adrenaline. And that was the closest I've ever been to a tornado, especially that violent. I had to go back and, what's that?
I've got incredible footage of that one.
Oh yeah, it's some of the best footage I've ever got. And dude, I'll never forget that thing planning. I was like, that thing might drop. And then as soon as it recycled, it just put down that cone. I'm like, holy crap, like that thing's intense. Like first thing when it first touched down, the motion was insane. I'm like, okay, like I gotta get close. I'm like, I'm going to risk whatever it takes. I'm getting close. I said, I'm not getting this this tornado from a mile away. I ain't doing it. So get closer, and then I'm on that main north-south road. I don't know what highway that is, but I seem to get tall, just get thicker and wider, and of course you can hear the roar, and it's like probably about 500 yards, and it's right across the road, and I'm sitting there like, so if I just sit here, like I am dead. Like that's really morbid to think about, but it's like, yeah, kind of just, it makes you humble about Mother Nature a little bit. And I'm not saying like you need a really close encounter to, you know, to get humbled, but I think every chaser deserves to get humbled, and just for the respect to earn the respect of Mother Nature, so to speak. But that was my experience of, kind of really getting humbled a little bit. But I'm like, okay, I might need to back up a little bit. Backed up and then got out and stood. I mean, it may have not been the smartest idea, but that was life-altering experience. I'll put it at that. And I don't think that's enough words to describe how crazy that was.
Yeah.
That tornado was insane. I almost got stuck in the same mud puddle that Sarah, I can't pronounce her last name, but I almost got stuck in that same mud puddle, and I pulled out of there right when she was pulling into that road, and that was insane. I was a little worried. I started turning around, like tires started spinning a little bit. I'm like, crap, this thing's coming right down this road.
Yeah,
But
Sarah Kasabian?
Yeah. I was right on that road. Like I think I was about 50 yards behind where she was. When she stopped.
Your guys' view from that tornado, dude, that was insane. I remember watching that on the way back to Omaha. I'm like, dude, holy crap. That was ballsy. I respect it. That was a really good shot you guys got. But I will say for that day though, for St. Library Day, I'm getting a little personal here, but I lost my grandma in September because of cancer, and I also lost my grandpa in March because of cancer. So I took their vehicle. I inherited their vehicle. I took their vehicle out on a storm chase. First time. That day was the first day. And I was very close to my grandparents, very, very close. of course, and to experience that on the first day that I get that just experience in the car, uh, it was just kind of surreal. So a little bit personal for that tornado too. So
Yeah, that's a really cool story, and I appreciate you being willing to talk about that.
yeah, I gotta be honest, man. It hasn't been an easy year.
Yeah.
Personally, but I will say this year's definitely it's been a good year for tornadoes, man. It's if you've been chasing constantly, and especially in the Midwest, shouts to the Midwesters out there. But what a year. And we're not done yet. We still have tomorrow and Tuesday. So
Yep.
Don't forget second season.
Yeah, I
It's
was about
coming. El Nino is coming.
El Nino's gonna cook Dixie, boys and girls.
Don't
Get
forget
ready.
Iowa
Yeah,
gets tornadoes in
hopefully.
December too. So
That is
hey,
true.
it happens.
Yep. Yeah.
The amount of trips that we made up to Illinois this year to chase,
Yeah.
it's actually wild.
I think we had one question that was, what was your wow moment that sparked your interest in weather? And I think that's the last question we'll do for the nights.
I
Who
go
wants to
first.
I
start?
can-
I go to bed.
Say
Go
what?
after
Start.
Mikey.
Can I go first so I can go to bed?
Yeah,
I gotta
yeah.
wake up okay. I think it had to have been 2011. There's a derecho that came through like northern Indiana and southern Michigan. I think northern Illinois as well. And I was watching, I think it was like a rerun of Toy Story at a drive-in movie theater, and the sky got super green. And like I was super young because I was born in 07, so I was like what 4 years old, and I can still like this is one of my earliest memories I can remember. We were sitting there watching Toy Story, and the got really green out, and then the tornado sirens started going off, and so we rushed to my grandma's house because it wasn't far from there and watched it from inside the garage, and it was just absolutely insane. And I think like an EF1 spin up got confirmed like not too far from there, but ever since then I was hooked.
That's
I have
that's
to-
a crazy
I-
story.
Now go to bed.
I have to go next on this one because I'm genuinely thinking it is the same exact storm what got me initiated into this whole thing.
Yeah.
July 11th, 2011 would be the
That sounds
specific
right.
day.
Yeah. Yep.
And so this is exactly what did it for me. I was 15 or I was born 94, somewhere around that anyway. I'm not going to calculate that. Horrible at math. Will knows this. We had this conversation. Anyway, so July 11th, 2011, I was at my parents' house. We have a farm in northern Benton County here. And we have a lot of barns out there. We have an old horse barn. We have chicken coops, things like that. And many a times before this storm, my dad would actually take me out to view them once in a while. Never got to see too much before this happened. But this day was in particular very different. I just remember my father panicking and telling everybody, grab our dogs, grab the animals, go to the basement. Like this storm's different. And okay, so that scared me a little bit. And I just remember hearing the absolute howl of this wind. And I remember it was the first time feeling kind of like my ears popping, like a pressure drop in a sense. All of our windows were starting to bust out. You could hear the glass. It ripped our roof off. And I went outside, and this is the first time. I'll rewind. This is actually the first time we actually had National Weather Service have to come out and survey the damage on our property. And they think that there may have been an embedded tornado in it because it took this several 100-pound, absolute huge, monstrous wooden support beam, lifted it up, and then moved it to the east a little bit. And then it went through my back windshield and into my engine bay, through like the firewall and everything. It pushed and broke like the bottom engine mounts of my car. And I remember going outside initially, looking at the front of my car. It looked fine. and you couldn't see anything because this beam was literally, it had flattened the backside of my car and then through and then kind of downward into my engine bay. But I remember looking at my car initially, it's like, oh well, it looks okay, and then I looked a little bit closer from my front steps, and I noticed my interior lights were on. I'm like, okay, that's not right. And then I walked up to my car and realized, oh my God, this is absolutely insane. It just absolutely destroyed my car. 1999 Monte Carlo SS. I was real happy with that thing. It was like one of my first cars. But and then our barns were completely leveled, and we had debris just everywhere. It took us, I would say, a year and a half to completely clean up our farm. It was absolutely just destroyed. And so I thought, I found it very interesting afterwards. It scared the living daylights out of me when it happened. I was absolutely terrified. The first time my father ever was like, get to the basement. And he's never done that before. We've had a lot of severe thunderstorms out there. So yeah, this one was a lot different for me, and it just it changed our lives for a while. And so the National Weather Service, they never did confirm a tornado, but they were highly suspicious of it because of just the direction of it and this the amount of sheer force it would take to have one of these beams lifted, lofted, and then moved a little bit southward from just a straight line. It was about 70 yards more south of just a straight push, but it also depends, on storm motion too. They were suspicious of it, never did confirm it. But yeah, that's the one that initiated me with this whole thing. Like, I've got to know what in the world and how, because I wanted to know if there was a tornado that hit our property, and that sparked my interest, and I did a lot of researching and everything from there. And I've chased and chased and chased. So yeah, that July 11th, 2011, Iowa derecho.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. So I've been obsessed with weather for as long as I can remember, but my real like come to Jesus moment that really like got me to chase, got me to really get more involved, because I went to school for meteorology. I didn't finish my degree, so I just kind of sat on it for a while. I always was passionate about it from a kid. I was part of the Twister generation that came up, right? I was younger, first time I ever saw it, and that's what got me initially interested. But Hurricane Ian will forever hold that place in my mind, like what you had, Adrian. That what really like made you come to Jesus with the weather, I guess. That really makes you think, wow, you got to really deal with these things. We had been through a couple of hurricanes before that. Irma comes up a lot. And then, my grandparents lived here through the 04 season. So they went through Charlie, Wilma, Francis, and Jean. So they were kind of experienced, but nothing prepared us for Ian. And I remember we were sitting in my grandparents' living room that afternoon, and we got stuck in the northern eye wall where I live. So we never got the eye. We were in the eye wall the entire time. Winds probably over 115, 120. And to give some context, so obviously the building codes down here are different, especially post Andrew. So my grandparents' house is solid poured concrete with rebar enforcement, not just block. They poured them individually. And then it's got storm shutters, so it's completely opaque metal storm shutters. And you could feel the walls vibrate from the wind, and you could hear stuff hit the house. Like, you could hear things hitting, and the sound of the wind. I can't, like, for those of you who've gone through them, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's got this eerie, it's like somebody's got a 747 parked outside, full throttle. It's just that whine and the constant rain. But what really, kind of messed with my head for a while after that was the rain. And that's why I push that so much now. The rain, when we walked outside, and the retention ponds in their community had came up probably 4 or 5 feet, like just from all the runoff that it collects in the matter of maybe 12 hours. and seeing just the pieces of debris and the trees. It was like everywhere you looked. And I don't know if you experienced this after the tornado, but it was like everywhere you looked, there was something new to see. Like after a couple days, you see like, oh, there's a piece of a roof in that tree, or how did that get here? So I know what you're like, that feeling of how in the hell did just the wind do? How did weather do this? And one of those, they had these cast iron gates at the front of their community. It actually bent them off the hinge and bent the individual cast iron bars sideways. That raw power
That's insane.
is really just insane. And the fact that there's people in their lives are impacted by this. That's really what does it for me is, people, I want people to be aware, not, hyper aware, because that's a whole different issue. But
yeah,
the big thing, I can't, really describe it unless you've been through it. You really get a different type of respect for what nature can do. It's wild.
Yeah,
That's a crazy story.
that is an insane story.
Yeah, it is. I'll say my story real quick. My phone's at 1%.
Cat 4s are nothing to mess with.
I'll say a story real quick because I'm checking in my hotel like almost as we speak, and my phone's at 1%. And my charger's not working. To be honest,
what?
To be honest, I don't really have a single moment that really put me into weather. I just remember, I feel like I've just always loved it. I remember growing up watching Twister. I remember my mom getting that on a CD, and I used to watch it and be like, "Holy crap!" Like I want to be Bill Paxton. Grew up watching really early storm chasers when that came out. Growing up through elementary, middle school, I was like, okay, yeah, like I want to do this. Like when I have my mind set on something, I just want to do it, and there's like no other way around it. Like I'm not taking the second or third option. Like I'm just doing it. Kind of just a combination of Twisters. And then actually my grandpa, his story, he went through the April 3rd, 1974 super outbreak. He was working, I think he was putting in guardrail, working in for like a construction company. And he got to witness the Sailor Park N5 from the Cincinnati Beltway. And I'll never forget, God rest his soul, but I'll never forget him telling me that story of him just him taking cover, seeing the actual tornado. And it's just, that sparked curiosity and really sparked interest. So it's kind of a culmination of everything. And I'll also include there was a tornado. Of course, down in Myrtle Beach, it was back 2010. So still really young. I'd be like 7 at the time. I was born 2000. Yeah, 7. And I sitting there in Myrtle Beach on vacation, and an EF3 went through campground. Luckily, it didn't do any damage to ours. It was an EF3, but I think it hit the campground over or something like that. It was really close by to our camper. So much so that we had to cancel our trip and leave a day or two early because we got told, hey, the campground just got hit. But they didn't really specify which one it is because we're kind of in a conglomerate of all the campgrounds. I remember just seeing vividly the damage and stuff like that. Just house was flat. There was a really well-built brick structure. It got flattened. With a
Dang, you might be dead.
And his phone
We
died.
lost him mid-story. That 1% battery.
red pickup truck that got mangled, sitting on top of the foundation. I just remember that vividly.
Oh, he's back.
Just
back.
More.
It might be chalked.
My back?
The anticipation
you're
is
back.
real.
Okay, what did I leave off on?
I have no clue. I'm gonna keep it a buck.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, I'll just reiterate. It was more of a combination of everything. Just a combination of everything. Seeing twisting break and just a tornado almost hitting our campground and wiping off our camper. So there's the short version of it.
So for me, it would have to be another 2011 event, but this one was April 27th. So I'm from Alabama, specifically Huntsville, and I got to see, I was 6 at the time. I got to see one of the lower end tornadoes with a funnel cloud out of the back of our neighborhood. So that just sparked my interest in like weather, just like the natural phenomenon of it. And then afterwards, me and my family, we helped out with like some of the families that like didn't have any food, didn't have a place to go, stuff because of that. Because the Hackleburg Phil Campbell tornado actually went up through Tony, which is like about 45 minutes from Huntsville. So all those people were coming to Huntsville to get all their supplies and stuff. And so just to see all of that just also sparked my interest in like the personality aspect of it, the helping the people aspect of severe weather. So yeah, that's basically my story about how I got started in severe.
Yeah, that's awesome.
My story as a local Nashville resident myself has to be March 2nd and 3rd, 2020. Some of y'all might remember that night. It's the night that Nashville Metro got hit by an EF3 tornado, and then Cookeville later on got hit by that EF4. But a lot of my friends and family were directly impacted by that, and that it actually more so really sparked my fear for weather. And during the pandemic, I just remember being terrified of storms after that night. I think a lot of people did in Nashville as well, because we had multiple other severe weather threats like Easter Sunday that year. And there's just so much uncertainty. Like Nashville in 2020 was not a great place to be from the pandemic and just all the freaking disasters that just managed to happen that year. But then came December 11th, 10th and 11th, 2021. I was introduced to Mr. Ryan Hall. A lot of you probably know him. But just sitting there watching someone else's coverage from a unique perspective, it was just really interesting. And that's what got me into severe weather. But I was really into hurricanes ever since Hurricane Matthew at a really young age. And Michael really then sparked my interest because we often go to the Florida Panhandle, specifically Mexico Beach. And
I was about to say, you're from the South. You probably go near Panama City.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole city of Nashville actually flocks to 38. So,
yeah, we know.
That in Oxford, Mississippi, huh?
Yeah. But yeah, that's really what sparked my severe weather interest overall. And but I've always been a huge snow lover my entire life. I am so fascinated by snowstorms and how that worked. Obviously, Nashville had that ice storm this year, which we're not going to talk about. But yeah, I love hurricanes and winter weather. That's sort of my jam. But severe weather is also pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, see, I was the exact opposite. I was severe weather focused. Then I moved somewhere that gets hurricanes.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh yeah, those are also
in.
kind of cool when they don't hit me.
Yeah, I would just remember my mom and dad turning on the Weather Channel really, and just watching all that after school during hurricane season. I remember Harvey as well after Matthew, Irma, all that stuff in the late 2010s like that really sparked my interest tremendously with tropical weather.
For tropical
really
weather,
cool.
for me, it was 04, 05. For anybody who was around for the 05 season, my dad was in the National Guard and they sent him down to Slidell after Katrina. And then he had to ride out Rita in a tent with the PA National Guard. So hearing stories about that growing up, and then my grandparents, obviously, they lived through Charlie. So that's funny though, of all things. It's opposite, but funny.
Yeah, I grew up in a very severe weather prone.
I was about to say, when you said Nashville, I was thinking to myself, which tornado?
Yeah, that's
because I think of the one from '98. That's what I think of.
98's a huge one. I've done a lot of research on that event, and
any of your family lived through that?
Yeah, my dad, I believe, was in our hockey arena. It's now called Bridgestone Arena during that event, and was hit, felt the pressure drop and everything. But 98 was really crazy. Like the amount Nashville has grown, and I mean
Get ready,
just the
boys and
sheer amount,
girls.
just the sheer amount of cranes that are up in downtown Nashville right now. Like if 98 2.0 happened today, like, whew, that would
I
not
think you're
be
going to
good.
see a similar pattern this coming winter into spring with this El
Yep.
Nino, 97,
agree.
98.
I agree. And we've had really bad outbreaks in the winter during El Nino years. The one that really comes to mind is Christmas Eve, December 23rd, 2015. That was one of the first severe weather outbreaks I like distinctively remember, like, you know, looking at radar scope and stuff and watching Holly Springs on the Weather Channel was pretty crazy. But yeah, El Nino years are no joke for the Deep South. You get a very active snow season and a very active severe weather season sort of intertwined. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out this winter.
Yeah, I
So
am definitely watching for this winter very, very closely. And we've been talking about that internally amongst the team of like, how are we going to make sure that we're able to get good weather information out covering so many different hazards, you know, across the board. It can be difficult, you know, so that's something that we've already been discussing and we're going to continue to discuss and make sure we can get a really good product out to make sure we can try to help people stay as safe as possible with that.
So I'll kind of end the pack here with my story of what got me into weather, and I mean, it's been pretty long. But so what got me into weather? It wasn't a really synoptically evident day. It was actually back in 2021 in August. I was in my hometown in Iuka, Mississippi. You know, not your traditional time you'd expect to see, so you know, severe weather and tornadic activity. But so the night before, I had actually just watched a documentary on a tornado. I just kind of watched it through, and I had kind of learned a little bit about how kind of supercells work and tornadoes work. And you know, it wasn't really an intentional thing. It just kind of what I was watching that night. Little did I know, the next day I would go to work. I was at Sonic. I was the manager at the time, and I noticed the skies were getting a little dark. You know, I look up, I walk out of the room or out of the store, and I kind of look up. I'm like, wow, you know, it's getting a little bit dark. Radar. Kind of look at it, and I'm like, oh, there's a tiny little cell approaching from the northwest coming to our area. And I had remembered the video I'd watched the night before. I had told myself, I was like, you know what? That kind of looks similar to the one that produced a tornado in that video. I swear, no less than 10 seconds later, right? The first thing that hit was the power went out. So the power went out first, and then roughly 3 to 4 seconds after that, a tornado warning hits our phones. All of ours go off at the same time, right?
That's like a horror movie.
Yeah. But yeah, the power goes out, the tornado warning hits. You know, I tell everybody, go get in the freezer, go get in the cooler. And I just, like, I couldn't stop myself. Once I got to everybody I was responsible for where they were supposed to be, I couldn't stop it. It was like a magnet just pulling me. Like, so I walk out the front door of the store, and I take a turn. We're right on a highway, so you've got good visibility to the north where this thing was coming from. I see it. Sure enough, there it is, right in front of me, probably half a mile away roughly, but it's looking right down the barrel of the highway. You can see straight for a good bit. So I could see it. I saw the lowering. I saw the dancing vortexes kind of crossing the road right in front of me. It touched. I actually have a video of it on my phone. I pulled out my phone. I started recording, and I couldn't believe my eyes. It went right through the middle of downtown. It did some sporadic EF1 damage. It wasn't very intense. It was just crazy to have all that happen in short order and have, you know, just that chain of events, how it went down. I was utterly fascinated. And ever since then, I just tried to do my best to learn and keep learning. And then my first actual storm chase was December 10th, 2021, which that's a story for another time. But yeah, it's just crazy how it works out sometimes, you know, how severe weather touches your life and gets you involved.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, everybody, for the most part, everybody that's into weather has that one moment, you know, and that's why that question gets asked all the time. So I really appreciate all of you guys being willing to share. on that note, we are probably going to go ahead and end the broadcast here, as we've run pretty late, which is okay. But I do want to thank everyone who is here currently still, in terms of our WBWX storm chasers and staff and meteorologists, and everyone who was here earlier. So I really appreciate you guys coming in for this and being willing to get in front of the camera and chat with everybody and provide some insight, go through the forecast discussion, talk, obviously we talked just a tiny bit about what's going on tonight as well to make sure we covered anything, super important, but nothing, of note particularly happened tonight. And then allowing everybody to probe your minds a little bit about your personal experiences with weather. So I really, really do appreciate that. And I also really appreciate everybody who tuned into the broadcast tonight. Of course, we had that members only mode for a little while so that we could make sure we got all the meteorological questions answered that our members did have. We're trying to find good ways to provide good benefits to our members. Whenever possible, we want to support the people that are helping make this happen. Obviously, we want to take care of the general public. That's our number one priority. So, of course, our normal severe weather coverage will never be behind any type of a paywall or a members only chat or anything like that. Even a subscribers only chat. I don't really believe in that. I think that's kind of silly. I'm never going to do anything like that. But I think broadcasts like this are a lot of fun. I think they can be really insightful. And it's definitely something that we're going to consider continuing to do every now and then, like maybe once a month, twice a month type of thing in the future. So if this is something you enjoyed or did not enjoy, definitely let us know in our Discord server. If you can make a feedback ticket, if you have any thoughts, that's the best way to get a hold of us and drop some feedback. So I would, of course, greatly appreciate it. Pettis, what is going on?
We got the siren sounding back here. I don't know what's happening in my lights back there, but
that's
I probably need to fix that.
But
Sure 4 is upset.
Yeah. I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. We will be we're going to be dropping a forecast video in the morning, and then we're going to be going live for an extensive period, both Monday night, that's tomorrow night, and Tuesday night. So make sure that you are subscribed and have notifications turned on for that so you don't miss when we go live. But other than that, unless anyone has any final words, we'll go ahead and end things off for the night.
I think we covered just about everything we could.
We did.
Thank you for the opportunity, Will. I appreciate it.
Likewise. Thank you. This has been great.
Yep. It's been a great night. Hope to do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
Heck yeah.
We'll try to do it every so often. Maybe, like I said, once a month, twice a month type of thing. I think it can be a really good way to engage, with people. So, and just give a little peek behind the curtain of what we do when we're not on air. So, but yeah, that's all we got for everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Everyone stay safe if you're in the path of any of the remaining severe storms that are out here in southern North Dakota. And have a great rest of your night, everybody. Thank you.